Today is Origin Jump Works Day, and I missed Crusader Day due to RL work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover Origin, then I'm going to cover Crusader, and then we're going to go to the showroom floor for both of them. So let's get right into it. So whenever I get into these, I like to sort by price, not A to Z, not whatever the coolest one was, so value low to high. You can see that Origin has quite a combination of ships. However, a few of these are these X1s. This is a flying motorcycle that's still in concept. Unlike the Nox, it is not available at this time. You can see the person would sit here, and then their leg would go down to here. I like the fact that the shielding is covering the legs. I like that it's a little less exposed to the elements. Once again, we talked yesterday about the concept of a full fairing. It's like just basically plastic or metal that sits in front of the person, protecting their legs from the elements, from wind, from cold, etc. a little bit. And this is taking that to the next level in a stylish way. However, I question how resistant to weapon fire this would be. I would say that probably the vehicle shields are going to be good. And then this little bit of something will help you against the elements and maybe slight amounts of small arms fire. The X1s are unique ships in that you can see the center line weapon. A lot of the other flying motorcycle style vehicles and hover bikes or whatever you want to call them do not have central weapon. This is good because this means that the more central the weapon is, the more accurate it is at longer ranges. Now, they can obviously nerf that in post by having the weapon have less literal accuracy. But in general, if you point the nose at something and the weapon is at the nose, it is a good thing for accuracy. So just bear that in mind. I like this centrally located weapon. I will note it has less weaponry than some others. I think these other ones coming up in a second are better than that at weaponry, but it is pretty dang beautiful looking vehicle. Origin style, of course. And it has a weapon system on board and good protection for the rider. Now, here is the racing one. Noticeably missing is the weapon system, and this one is rigged up more for competition. There is really no racing in game yet that's officially supported, and most people that I've heard racing use ships, not these type of vehicles. However, I could see these being used as like, people keeping an eye on the track, zipping around at a track day. Just something very sporty to ride around on for fun. Or in the future, who knows? Maybe there will be racing for motorcycles in the game, these type of hover bikes in space or on the ground, and these would certainly be awesome to have. On to the 100i series. So this is a series of vehicles I see the point of, and I really appreciate. However, I'm not a fan of them due to my 300 series, I guess, bias. 300 series has been around since the beginning of the game, 300i specifically, and then over time the variants. So the 100i is like the new kid on the block. You can see the character in here about the correct scale of the vehicle. Oh, one other thing about the X1 series. These are the vehicle that the front cockpit, front area below the center of the ship on the 400i was designed to hold one of these. So bear that in mind when you're thinking of if you really love the 400i and you want to complete the set, so to speak, one of those X1s wouldn't be a bad option. In particular, the one with a weapon system. Even if you're not into fighting, it's always good to have something on board. Even if you're just blasting a rock apart or whatever, it's a tool. It's a utility-based tool. So anyway, back to the 100i series. The 100i is kind of the new kid on the block. It bumped the 300 series price up to make room for it, and it has one really nifty feature. It is the smallest Origin ship with a bed, and it also has the capability to scoop its fuel while it's on the move. It never needs to be refueled if you're playing your cards right in most situations. So if you're flying this thing, it is very handy. One of the other neat factors of the 100i series is that they could be spawned at Platinum Bay. So the same kind of place that will spawn these at like an outpost, for now, will spawn small ships like the 100i series. So the 100i is one of the cooler ships for somebody considering those type of scenarios where they might be stuck out in the boonies and want to spawn a ship and explore without ever having to worry about fuel. The catch is the 100i itself is not that great. I'll explain why in a moment. It's spoiler alert, it's variants. Its variants are very, very good for what they do, although they're slightly higher in price. And that's when you start drifting into, if your price is going up and up and up, why don't I just get a 300 series? So that's just a thought. The 85X is the next one. This ship comes, as far as I remember, I thought it was supposed to come with the 890, but I have yet to see it sitting in an 890. And the 85X is a very small two-seater. It's 2 seats in here in this ship. It has a small set of weapons. You can see the nice little size ones. It's got like 4 of them. And it is, once again, it's a 2-seater that can really scrunch up and fit in small spaces. You can fit a few of these in an 890. I think one of them may come with an 890, maybe. And the 85X is just one of those cool runabout ships. It is one of those type of snubs that is meant to be attached to a ship like an 890 for the people to go fly around and have fun together and explore the galaxy and then come back to their 890 and go eat dinner or go to the spa or something. Like, that's really what it's envisioned is to be. However, I've seen some pretty interesting videos of 85Xs taking down bigger ships. So your mileage may vary. It is not really meant to be like a long-distance explorer like the 100i, where it never needs fuel. It was never envisioned to be that. It is very sporty. It is very fun. I love the fact it's 2 side-by-side seats. One of the only configuration ships that's like that in such a small variant. Sorry, small ship. So it's pretty cool. I don't recommend it to people who have a small collection, but it is a neat ship. Here's the X1 Force. So the third of the X1 series, the last of the X1 series. This is the pure weapon system one. Right here is the big gun that it upgrades to. I don't know if I can recommend this, mainly due to the simple fact that that big gun is going to slow you down greatly. Now, you can say what you want about different things. It's still a concept ship. They could change this 16 different ways, so I'm not going to comment on its performance any further. I just know if it's got the bigger gun, it's going to need some serious extra upgrades in order to make it faster, and usually CIG likes to balance these ships. The racing one is the most maneuverable, slightly faster than the rest. The weapon system one tends to be slightly slower than the average one, but it's still pretty quick because it has some upgrades to make it work, like the engine and the power plant and everything. It has a cool look to it. I can't comment on these. I think these are all a buying game, all of these X1s, unless you're just a completionist and you want LTI across the board on a 400i collection. And you want to be able to fly your 400i with full LTI without any fear of anything blowing up and losing it. So 125A. This is the combat variant of the 100i. This is one of the 2 of the 100i's variants that I really like. This right here is a nice buying game, and even a buy in the store if you really like the 100i series. There's another one that's for the non-combat pilots, but this one has upgraded missiles, upgraded weapons. I really like this 125. I think it's pretty cool. It shares a lot of its concepts from the 325, which is a combat ship from the 300 series that has long proven its worth, and we're going to get to that, I suspect, in a minute. But yes, I think this is probably one of the 2 variants of the 100i series that I would seriously consider if I was looking at a 100i. Here's the base 300i. This ship is able to do quite a lot for its good. It has a drop cargo area in the back. It is very luxurious. You can customize these. I would not recommend this, though, because of its variants. You can see a pattern here. Origin tends to have, in the 300 and the 100 series, really good variants that really overshadow the primary ship. However, the price does go up. I see also a special upgrade offer on this ship. So when we get to the buybacks, we'll probably have some fun. Here's the G12. And the G12 is a vehicle that is... How do I put this? The G12 is a vehicle that is only in really in existence to make everything better when it comes to breathability in space. That's what's funny. I see him in a pilot outfit with a helmet. Like the whole point of a vehicle like this is that you don't need the helmet. You don't need the suit. um, you can jump into this, and it has breathable atmosphere for 2 people with the remote turret on top. There is multiple G12s. This is supposed to be like a competition to the Ursa, but instead of instead of drop seats in the back, you can see it has cargo in the back, trying to emphasize its cargo storage capacity of a couple SCU. I think it's great if it can fit in your ship. It's an extremely wide stance vehicle, and the gun does not go down to the side like the Ursa. The Ursa's gun has a track that it goes down the side of the vehicle and onto the side, which means it can squeeze into a lot of vehicles that the G12 cannot. Note that it is in concept, so it could change. The gun could scooch down, like even the Nova, for example. Shockingly, the Nova's gun is able to retract into its turret slightly, and that helps it fit into the Hercules up the ramp. So there's a lot of tricks of the trade to make things fit places that we wouldn't expect them to. So when hopefully while it's in the pipeline, those are thought of, changed as needed. Looks like the racing one's next. Here's the G12R, and you can definitely see where I'm going to go with this. There is no remote turret, so this variant would be easier to fit in more vehicles. I would not be surprised if this is a popular vehicle just because of that reason. It seats 2, though. So unlike the Cyclones, unlike the Ursa, unlike the new Spartan, well, not the Ballista, but all those vehicles have enough seats to properly fit more than 2 people. They can fit 3 people. And, well, the Cyclones don't have breathable air, but all those other vehicles I just described do. And I kind of wonder if that's going to be a limitation. It's a shame it's not a bench seat that could fit 3 people, but that's how it is. This is a cool vehicle. If you're an Origin person and you want to be able to drop this out of an 890 jump out of the bottom of it, this isn't a terrible vehicle to pick. And this would fit too, by the way, no problem, in an 890. But the 600i is another vehicle, ship that should be able to fit these. That's kind of where we're at with that. The 135C is the third of the 100i series of ships. And the 135C is the cargo variant. C is for cargo. And I really like the design on this vehicle because it integrates 2 really cool things about the 100i series. One, it has an enhanced cargo bay. It's a little fatter in the back. And 2, it actually has a little secret door. Pirates, you didn't hear that. It has a secret door that you can squeeze into behind the bed. So like the bed, the very, I'll be honest with you, very sparse interior. There's a bed on the side where if you just turn the ship's, let's say this character just turned the ship's chair around, like the pilot's chair around. If you're looking to the left of you is the bed, and straight ahead of you, down towards the floor, is a small cubby to get to your cargo area. So the idea is like if you're doing box runs, you would be able to just land, flip the chair around, walk to the back, open the door, grab the small box, open the side door here, which is where you get in and out of the ship, and walk out with the box. And there you go. You're out the door. Instead of having to exit, get out of the ship, go around the back, open the door, grab the cargo, close the door again, go walk off, come back, open this door. It just takes one extra step out of your deliveries. And because the ship has infinite fuel, being able to zip around on the infinite local fuel, being able to just zip around is really useful. And this ship is going to be really cool for outpost work. Being able to just drop off, somebody's working out on the edges of an outpost area and building fencing. Being able to drop off the fencing goods and then zip back to the refinery and keep checking on your processes without ever having to worry about fuel is really handy. And having a ship that's able to integrate better into that scenario is even better. Another example is you can have stowaways inside this little cargo area, so that's good and bad. You can squeeze somebody in, and heck, you could smuggle somebody through a dangerous area safely that shouldn't be there. But also, on the flip side, somebody could be hiding in your cargo area waiting for you to take off and then attack you. So there's a lot of thoughts with this ship. Think of all the exciting scenarios I just proposed out of the small but mighty 135C. But look at the price point, because I think the 315P should be the next one. Yes, here it is. So at the same exact price point as the 135C is the, at 65 USD, is the 315P. And it's kind of funny. Conspicuously absent is its tractor beam, unless this tiny little bit is hidden underneath that lens flare. But this ship's about to get its tractor beam. Ship tractor beams are about to be a thing, and this is going to be one of the smallest ships that's reliably has one. It has cargo capacity. It has endurance built in. It has a proper bed. You can go cut. Well, they're both beds work the same way, I should say, but it's a nicer style bed, and it has a full bathroom in here for hygiene, and it has a kitchenette, and you're able to go customize it now on the website for like $5 and have a coffee machine, a food processing unit. It already has a fridge built in. It already has weapons storage and clothing locker and stuff. Like, this ship is infinitely more valuable than the little mighty 135C, unless you're talking about that scenario I just described where you're at an outpost, fuel is absolutely critical not to waste, and you have small enough loads to really warrant this ship, or you're constantly find yourself at Platinum Bays and you need to just spawn a ship. This is a good ship to have. Heck, it's better than the 125A, because that thing, it doesn't really add much fighting value for what you lose. Whereas this has a bigger cargo capacity, and on a fuelless ship, cargo capacity is king. It's just it makes it more valuable to have that advantage. So, sorry, the arrows kind of act weird sometimes. So, 315P is by far, out of these two, the one I would pick. But both of these ships I will have, because my plan is to buy the 125A and the 135C in game. Heck, I'm probably going to have a stack of 3 of these when they finally stop doing persistence wipes, because I do find the value in these ships. My problem is the price point for what you get. The 315P is worth a lot more money, and because you buy it in the store, you can customize, once again, for 5 USD, you can do all sorts of upgrades. The coffee machine, the food processing unit, and then combine that with the fridge already built in, you've got an entire kitchen. And in this ship, unlike the 135, 125, 135C, you have a full bathroom. So this ship, you can live on this thing for extremely long periods of time. And one of the other interesting things about both of these ships is that somebody can sit on the bed. They're supposed to be one-seater ships. However, I have personally sat them on the bed, and it's like, look, I know this is awkward, just sit there. And if you really had to, even weirder, but not necessarily advisable, you could have somebody sit on the toilet. So in an absolute, like, end of the world, we need to get out of the station that's about to be locked down by the Nine Tails again or something, you could jump onto one of these ships, and the 315P, for example, or its sister, the 325A I'm about to bring up, and the 300I technically, you could seat 3 people to get the heck out of Dodge. And for now, those seats are acceptable. In the future, they might be flopping around or something if high G maneuvers happen. But for now, and even in the near future, like years, it should be fine. Also, one of the other neat things about the 300 series is this beautiful glass that goes all the way back to the back here. What I really like about that is when you're laying in the bed or you're working in the kitchen, you can look up and you can see all the stars, and it's a really cool effect. I cannot stress how open these smaller ships feel, and they have a taller ceiling, so they can get away with that, whereas the 100i cannot. Now, one other thing to mention, these 100 series ships do fit in some ships that these 300 series cannot. So these fit more comfortably in the Hercules series, for example, than the 300 series. These are bigger ships, but not by enough in many scenarios to warrant a difference. Like, for example, both of these would take up a Liberator pad. So, I don't know. Take it what you will. So, here's the final G12. This is the G12A. Now, this is the militarized variant that it still only has 2 seats, but you can see that rack of missiles in the back. I can't recommend this. I feel like this vehicle would be better suited to be a Cyclone MT, which has the big old cannon on top, or is a heavy machine gun or a small cannon, and then it also has decent-sized missiles to the sides of the cannon, and that seats 3. And you still need, just like this, 2 people to pilot it. Now, this still is in concept. So if the driver can operate the missile pods as well, then I would, so you have that choice. Does the co-pilot slash passenger, can they operate the missiles and then take over control from the driver? And then when you don't have that, you can have just one person in here handling both. That would make this vehicle nice. But in its current configuration, if this is the weapons system person and this is the driver, I can't recommend this vehicle. It's when you give the driver that ability to do both that I can start seeing the value of this. Because on the Cyclone MT, you cannot operate the weapons. They are dumb weapons, as in somebody has to stand there and physically utilize them. So that's when I would start looking at this and going, okay, this vehicle is really nice. Also, don't forget about the Cyclone AA. The Cyclone AA has missiles, and it has an EMP, but the EMP is kind of worthless right now. They have to rework that. That are handled by the passenger seat, the co-pilot seat. So that is something to bear in mind here. If one person can operate this vehicle, good, especially because it has atmosphere. You don't have to worry about constantly going back to get air like the Cyclone AA, the Cyclone MT. And then there's the elephant in the room of, if you're going to spend this, how much more is a ballista? Especially if you're buying it in game. I don't think they're going to be that much different in cost. So that's a whole nother topic, but yeah. And for just $5 more, the 325A, the third and final of the 300i series. This ship is fantastic. I still use it constantly on combat missions. I'm now on my third 325A because I keep giving them away to friends, like very close friends that want to fly and learn how to play the game. I hand them a 325A. I do it time and time again, and I end up having to buy a whole new one and buy the food and the coffee machine for each one at a paint job. I get to know people based on which color. Oh yeah, that's the one I gave you, because I recognize the outrageous color schemes. But the 325A is the combat variant of the 300 series. So the 315P we talked about a few minutes ago, that's only slightly different in price point, $5 USD, is the tractor beam model that has endurance built in for its engines, and it has, so it has longer legs, so to speak, by a bit than the combat variant 325A. This thing has a large ballistic cannon on the front, and it is truly meant to be kind of a monster in its own right. Now, when I talk about the 325A, I feel like a lot of things are based on very moving stats. That's why I'm frantically typing to double check what size that dang cannon is on the front, because they keep fiddling with the stats. So, on this ship, you're dealing with the single size 4 on the front. You have this auto cannon on the front. And then on the back, you have the 2 size 3s. They're over here. And then you have a rack of size 3 missiles and a rack of size 2 missiles, 4 of each. But the crazy thing about this ship is, because of the customizability, you can get different weapon loadouts. You can get an energy weapon loadout, so you can get different weapons. Same with the 315P, by the way. And you can add different setups. But they cost money. I wouldn't recommend them. I would just use them as baselines for what you buy in game. And consider carefully. Maybe you don't want to have to worry about rearming the ammunition. That's a couple, I don't know, 1,000 UEC probably at max if you max that out. Maybe you don't have to worry about that. We'll put an energy weapon there. Upgrade the power plant so it can handle all the energy weapons and keep the clip fully charged. These are things that you want to think about. Maybe better coolers. You see, that's the fun part of these type of ships, is the 300 series really has the legs to upgrade and keep monitoring. Actually, I lied. There's another 300 series, and I'm curious if they have it here. The racing one. Here it is. Yes, I'm starting to skip around because I'm starting to learn that continuity matters. The 350R. The 350R is the racing variant of the 300 series. And while I love this ship, and it actually is my pledge package ship, and I will never get rid of it. By the way, I really like this skin. This looks completely different than anything I've ever seen on it. Mine's bright yellow and has carbon fiber yellow on the inside. Racing fun. But anyway, the 350R, I'll never get rid of it. I can't recommend this ship because I feel like there is no racing content, and I feel like it's not the fastest ship anymore. However, in a straight line, it's kind of like a drag racer. It gets fast. So I use this ship a lot of times when I need to leave Atmo. Even in the mighty Orison, if I need to get that ridiculous distance to be able to warp away, I jump on my 350R and then I warp it to the nearest station I want to be at. And then once I'm in quantum to that station and I get there, I then undock the large ship or whatever ship I wanted. This ship is great for that type of work, but can I recommend a 125 USD ship just for a convenience? No. No, I really can't. So I hope to see they do have some upgrades to this. I will say this also can be customized. However, in the back there's no kitchenette. I know it's a sadness. It still has the bathroom, but the bed is basically dead center, and there is no kitchenette inside the 350R, which means it doesn't have as long legs as these other ships. The praises I have hailed upon the 325, the 315, even the 300 are not viable for the 350R, and that means that it is more meant to be long or mid-range, where you need to start breaking out some snack bars and some bottled water that you brought in your suit in order to stay out with this thing. So it's a very weird ship. It has a bathroom, but it doesn't have a kitchenette anymore. And it's a shame because they should have squeezed that in somehow, and that would make this ship far better. But once again, it's meant to squeeze, I guess, every ounce of energy and weight out of the ship for competition that doesn't exist yet. So down the line, this ship may be worth it, but it would probably be a buying game for now, just as kind of like a crowning achievement if you can get it in game. And by the looks of things, it's a 944,000 UEC ship in game. So I can't recommend it to buy in store. Another one I can't recommend to buy in store, but buy in game, is an M50. You can pick this up in Loreville. They're literally sitting, there's a full-size M50 on display in Loreville at all times, above what's going to be the commercial flight facility, interestingly. So where you go to the ASOP terminals, inside the Loreville's spaceport. That's where you will find an M50 on display and where you can buy one. And I would say that it's one of those ships where I think it's got a place, but it's like, once again, where is the racing place? And this ship is actually a little more expensive, even though it's only 100 USD. It's 1.193 million credits, UEC credits. And it is going to be all engine and very limited anything else. So some of the downsides of the 350R, where it's, honestly, this thing should really be rethought into an interceptor that kind of can race. Because it does have an interceptor package, and that's what I have mounted to it. And I honestly think it would do a good job of that. It's faster than most of its ships of its size, and it still has a decent bit of shields and weapon systems to do something when it actually gets there, unlike the damn Mantis. And this ship can't. Now, I'm sure there'll be somebody who tells me otherwise, but once you blow these missiles and these weapons start working for a while, there's not much to show for this ship. It either blew whatever it's fighting up, or it's sitting there not able to finish the job. So I feel like this ship in the right hands is much more scary than this ship. But it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a combat vessel that just... it kind of sort of can shoot at things, where really it's meant to be a racing vessel. One other interesting thing is Cousin Crows will have an engine upgrade for this, or an engine side grade. We're yet to find out what that's going to be, but that's exciting stuff. Okay, on to larger vessels. So the 400i. The 400i is a ship that just came out. It is not available to purchase in-game yet. I highly recommend this vessel, even at the 250 price point. I think it's a very nice ship. It takes a lot of the lessons they learned from the 300 series, and it turns them into an even bigger ship. It's kind of like if somebody took the 600i and they combined it with the 300i and they squeezed it together. There's 2 floors to this ship. I will include in the cards a whole video of gameplay experiences trying to squeeze Cyclone MTs and ROCs into this ship. Spoiler, you can't do that anymore, but in that vehicle, in that scenario, I showed you how that it fits in the earlier patches. So this is a ship they're still working on. These struts are one of the, for whatever reason, are the big fight right now is people saying they don't want these ships to be so rough on landing. So right now you can't fit a Cyclone MT or an ROC, but you can fit most other smaller vehicles into this ship. You have to bring up the ladder, the stairs, and then you drive in from the front. The gun in the back blocks you from driving in from the back for the most part, unless it's a really small vehicle. This is meant to be an exploration vessel. One of the interesting things that was suggested by a few folks is that there is the refrigerated engineering compartment on both sides of the bottom floor. And the idea is that you might be able to take things like what you see here, them harvesting whatever these plants are, these glowing plants, and being able to put them into a climate controlled environment where they can bounce around inside the engineering area, and hopefully in the future have crates where you can physically put them into a crate and just secure it to the floor in the future. So who knows? We'll see. There are 3 suit lockers. There is 1 weapon rack in the front right near these stairs. And then when you walk outside, you can bring down this elevator that can fit most space motorcycles. The X1s come to mind, and also the Nox comes to mind to fit inside this front area. I think Mason pointed out he tested it to fit a couple boxes, and apparently it can fit boxes. So that would be nice to be able to come down your stairs and do a couple box runs with a multiple delivery job with this ship. It sips gas. It has energy efficient fuel efficient engines, localized fuel. So your hydrogen is able to be very reasonable on this ship. And it still has 3 beds, so you can log out up on the top floor with good visibility in each room. Beautiful windows. Nice cockpit is in the front and the bridge. And then there's a hangout in the back, which has like a diner-style seat, a hologram table that you would normally see on like a 600i or above, Explorer Edition, and also a full kitchen. It's like kitchenette. It's in between, but it's a full-size kitchen, I guess you could argue. And you can see that it has, well, it's hard to see the turret on the back here, but there's a turret here, there's a turret here. It is easy to argue that the placement on the back of the ship on the top is bad. The turret on the bottom is well placed. The one on top, the problem is it sits here instead of on top of the vehicle. So this whole area is your blind spot, and these little winglets are your blind spots. So somebody could sit like to the side of the ship, and then only the one turret could probably peck at them as the ship is spinning and such. So I don't know. It's a good ship. The 4 weapons are a little lacking, but it's meant to be an explorer vessel. It's got decent shielding. I think this is a great ship for the 250 USD price point. It is a buy in the game when it eventually comes out, but you can buy it in store. CCU to it is another good example. If you've already got something, this is not a terrible ship. And daily driver. I use this as a daily driver now a lot. Really enjoy this ship. Okay, on to the 600Is. Now, the 600i series has 2 vehicles in it. Let's see if the next one is a 600i as well. There we go. The 600i Explorer, which you can see is 475 USD, and the 435 USD 600i Touring. These are very important ships because they are showing you what you can truly get for your money with Origin. And these are starting to be the level, especially prior to the release of the 400i, the 600i series started showing you what the Origin design language is, what true luxury is. You know, instead of just 2 wine glasses on a 300 series, this ship has a proper bar, proper full kitchen and dining area, and has that luxury feel to it. And that includes the Explorer Edition, by the way. So the way they're set up is there's a module on the middle of this ship that is designed to be one of 2 things. In the touring model, it has rooms to stay in at the top for VIPs or for friends and workmates. You know, you could use it for that as well. And then a staircase that leads downstairs to a lobby-style area where everybody can sit and kind of drink and eat and hang out together while they look at the stars. And this ship, on the touring model, I would argue has a lot of wasted space. And Morphologist has an excellent video covering how to fix this ship, because his vision of having a massive window on the bottom of the ship and having a piano and having, I think he had like a growing plant that went all the way to the ceiling, or an aquarium or something that went 2 stories around the curved staircase, and changing the way the rooms feel and the way everything in the middle there works is really cool. I highly recommend that video. But That's all well and wonderful, but we don't know how VIP missions are going to work. So while this is an org hangout ship for a very small organization, that's great. Uh, I would more recommend the 600i Explorer. The price point goes up. It still has the same combat shops as the 600i Touring, but the middle gains the ability to run a large land vehicle, gains the ability to run more cargo, gains the ability, it has a big elevator in the middle of the ship instead of like that spiral staircase, and so you can do both those things correctly. And also the upper floor has like science and scanning arrays, hollow table, like it has things that you actually would want on a ship like this most of the time. And it still keeps the luxurious captain's quarters underneath the bridge. Has one of the best views in the game is standing in that captain's quarters or on that bed and looking out into that area. Sometimes we've used that for shots and different things I've worked on content creator wise, and it's downright beautiful. Now, the 600i Explorer shares the rest of the ship, the bridge, the captain's quarters, and the back area with the bar, the kitchen and full dining area, the pool table, all that stuff with the 600i Touring. So you still keep all of that. And there's still a suit room on the back corner, like an armory that's in a really weird place. And also crew quarters. Both these ships have 4 beds for crew. They have 2 full-size men's and women's bathrooms for some reason. And it's got a lot of wasted space. But this ship is the better of the two. I will also mention that this concept art does not depict, it's an older concept art, does not depict well how the ship actually looks. This does. These are 3 size 5 guns on this ship. Pilot controlled size 5s. And not only that, it has 4 missile racks. Sporting, I think it's like 18 size 2s or something like that. It's got a whole array of missiles, and they're all hidden inside the wings. So out of these, I would say that's the 2 that I would say that I would recommend is the Explorer Edition. Now they are working on size 3 16 size 3 missiles on the missile racks. And then I've also seen that it has smaller size missiles as well, if I'm not mistaken. And if you hit the G key 4 times, you can fire volleys of 4 of those size 3s at a time. This thing runs missions like nobody's business. And because it has those 3 size 5 guns, you've got the energy-based guns, by the way. This ship is one of the best soloable ships in the game when you're running Xenothreat. Xenothreat Incursion, when the Idris comes in and you're shooting at hammerheads and stuff all day, these things can stay on the field. When the Retaliators are going back to base and reloading over and over and over again, this ship can just sit there and peck away at stuff. And it's got 2 large shields on board. It's ridiculous what this ship can do by itself. And if you have just one gunner sitting on that back gun, you're going to be made in the shade if for the most part, if pirates show up. Now, here's the kicker, though. All of what I just said has been thrown out the window due to Crusader Ares coming out in this patch. The problem with this ship is not that it's bad. The problem with this ship is that you've got ships that now are sporting size 7 weaponry. One weapon, to be fair, or the Redeemer that's sporting 4 size 5s? So with 3 players, this thing can be taken down by a Redeemer. Has better maneuverability, has turrets that instead of fixed weapon systems for those size 5s. And it has the shields and whatever, but armor isn't in the game yet. But this thing still has the range. So one other thing to remember is this ship has range potential that the other ship did not. Redeemer and the Ares series do not have the fuel load that this kind of ship has. So I think it's all games that we need to think carefully about what this ship is and what this ship is not. You're not, when this patch is over and the Ares and the Redeemers are not the new hotness anymore, not everybody's going to be flying around in them. And running into a random Ares, Inferno, for example, in the middle of Pyro is going to be few and far between. For starters, it's going to need a Liberator or something larger like that to be able to be living off of, or be right next to a station, camping that station. Then it would be like one of those broken stations, than to be sitting out in the middle of nowhere on a planet. It's a single-seat fighter. It has to go sleep somewhere. It's a single-seat fighter. It has to go refuel and rearm somewhere. And so I think that's an example of why we need to be careful about what it is and is not. And the Explorer is out of the two the one I'd recommend. Now, the interior is being reworked in a Golden Pass that we're expecting to see the results of in the beginning of 2022. So I would stay tuned on this ship, but this is the type of ship, probably in the CCU section of this video, I will dedicate a lot of time to talking about the CCU options to the Explorer and the Touring. I think, I don't know why these arrows are acting up, but anyway, the Touring, in my eyes, is a sleeper, because if they rework that middle, that two-story middle, into something that's really, really nice, and right after they push the Golden Pass, if they have, say, a Origin surprise sale and turn around and say, in like a Star Citizen Live or an Inside Star Citizen video, they dig deep into, here's how VIP missions will work. Here's why they're worth it. Here's how they're lucrative. And here's why, this hint, hint, the 600 series is a good idea. Like, that would make sense to me. I feel in my bones that middle of the year, when they don't have any sales, mega sales coming up or just past or whatever, CIG is going to be looking for different ideas, different things to push, different things to talk about. And I think VIP missions are a big question mark right now for the 890 owners, the 600i owners, these type of vehicles, the Genesis Starliner, when that finally comes out. These are the type of things that are going to need to be broached. How do we handle VIPs at the very least? And I think VIPs are a great place to start, because think about it. Right now, the 600i Touring has like, what, 5 rooms, I think, for like visitors. The 890 Jump only has like 4 staterooms or something. So aside from the captain's quarters room. So I'm kind of curious about, like, at most you're going to have 5, 6 VIP rooms on these ships. So those are a perfect way to start the process of introducing VIP missions, by only having a couple NPCs wander onto the ship and sit in their rooms. You don't even need to have them do much aside from just sit in the room and walk right outside the room to the lobby. You could even set it up so only certain ships can get VIP missions. So they're almost like treated like a piece of cargo in the eyes of the computer. I'm not saying people are cargo, but I think that would make a lot of sense. If I was CIG, that's how I would start rolling out passenger missions, is start with the VIPs. A couple VIPs isn't going to break the game. And this ship would be one of the cheapest ships in the game that has that capability. Even the RSI Phoenix, a ship I dearly love, is only slightly cheaper. And the RSI Phoenix does not have staterooms. It has a single room for the captain, or, really VIP, super VIP or something. And the idea is that it's supposed to be shorter flights where they sit in those business class style seats. That I love the way the Phoenix was designed. I can't wait to see it get a Golden Pass to really finish it up, where the freezer's underneath the bar and the bar is usable and such and everything else like that. Bring back my piano. I really miss my piano. Coons did a great job on that ship, and yeah, he did a great job on the ship. I really think that ship had a great vision, and I can't wait to see it finalized. But the Phoenix is still in the $300 price point and above. Was it $350 or so? So the 600i series with proper staterooms for longer distance VIP missions is really the Touring. That's the first one. And in my eyes, I would do the Phoenix, the 600i Touring, and the 890 Jump. And that's it. And then say, look, when the Genesis Starliner finally comes out, it'll also have this capability. Because remember, the Genesis Starliner is going to be modular. So at the first Genesis Starliner released, you could actually just release it with the VIP configuration pre-configured. And then once that is proven and tested and teethed, and the Genesis Starliner owners are happy because they're able to do VIP missions that are very lucrative, then down the line, you could turn around and say, okay, look, we finally are able to support modularity. the ship could go to a Cousin Crow style place for Origin ships, and it can be converted over to a conventional ship that can handle normal air passengers or mid-tier passengers like business class, and maybe have a little casino mini game or something in there or something as well, a little bar, those type of things. But the original VIP one, I envision a couple staterooms and a tiny lobby, or sorry, big lobby, in the Genesis Starliner middle, and then bars on both sides. Something like that would be really cool, and I think that would make a lot of sense. So if once again, this is rampant speculation now. I don't usually do this in my videos, but I'm trying to give you my vision of why the 600i Touring at its price point is not actually a terrible idea. And I think both these ships, once VIP missions are finally rolled out, this ship will be bumped up. It already has enough headspace, 435 USD versus its sister at 475. But if this bumps up enough, it may force the hand of the Explorer Edition to go up even higher, especially with that Golden Pass. I would not be shocked to see both these ships sitting at like $525 for the Explorer and $500 for the Touring, something like that. I'd have to look at the full price list right now and try to figure out the pricing strategy CIG is trying to go for, or at least speculate even further. But I think the Touring is a sleeper. Right now, it's not a sleeper, but it could be a sleeper. Speaking of sleeper, at this moment, what is this ship? This ship is pretty dang cool because it has piles of beds in it. You can sleep a whole bunch of folks in this dang ship. It's got 4 crew sleeper berths. It's got a captain's quarters for 2 people. So that's 6. And then you also have, I think it's 5 staterooms in the dang ship. So that's a lot of sleeping quarters. That's a lot more than what most ships have when they're starting to get pumped out now. You think of the 300i, you only got you got beds for 3 people. You got 4 escape pods, interestingly, but you only got three beds. This ship is sitting on 4 times the number of beds, give or take. So just bear that in mind. Same with the Explorer, except for the second floor 5 beds, little berths. And I'd have to check those beds again. They might have 2 sleepers on each one of those beds, which multiplied the value of the Touring even more. But the crew ones are single compartment beds. They're meant for one person to lay down and log out or go to rest, whatever you need to do. So very cool ships. I think these are vastly underrated, and I think the 3 weapons which both of them enjoy, and then the missile racks hidden inside the wings, are very well done, very stylish ships. I will say one last thing. I really want them to get rid of the window underneath the bar. It's weird, but yeah. Hey, you made it this far into the video. I'm going to say everything. I'm going to say weird stuff and call out weird, interesting things, and say that everything I'd like to see changed on these ships. Okay, on to the stock limited 890 jump, whatever the heck that means. I'm guessing they're going to do waves of 890 jumps, but I think at this price point they won't have too hard of a time keeping them in stock. So the 890 jump, we'll check on the buyback section if this ship is buybackable. Sorry. On the CCU section, if this ship is CCUable too, because if it is, that would make this more interesting to me in different ways. But at the 950 price point, I can only recommend this to the most hardcore player. Even for VIP missions, I just went in depth about why I would recommend the 600i Touring over the 890 jump, unless there's a quality contrasts. So the rooms in the 890 jump are very big. So if there needs to be like a suite level room on a ship to be considered an even better VIP room for longer distance trips, usually on a plane, the longer the distance the trip, the better the first class ship experience is. So like if it's if it's like a 3-hour hopper flight, it's just gonna be a very cushy chair, very wide. Might have probably I'll have a partition that you can put up and down to block the person next to you or not. Pardon me. The masks that we have to wear at work basically are very, very thick, and they basically put me into like long term. They affect me for like a day or 2 afterwards. Anyway, so the 890 jump is It's in a weird place. It only has a few staterooms. So if the VIP missions are the same exact quality, regardless of if they're across Stanton, where the 600 eyes will scoop those up, the Genesis Starliners, the maybe even the RSI Phoenix will be able to scoop those up, then the 890 jump just isn't worth running. The fuel load alone on using this ship is very expensive. But then I look at the size of the spa, the pool, the restaurant, and the boardroom, the freaking boardroom at the front of this thing. I mean, it's in the middle of this thing. I can't help but start to wonder if this ship in those shorter distances will be able to take advantage of just wander around my ship. Eventually, I'm not saying right away, but eventually, this ship may be able to handle 40, 50 VIPs. Because the idea is that short of a distance, it's almost like, well, to quote Monkey when we were talking about the BMM, it's the same idea. It's kind of like a cruise ship mentality. In a cruise ship, you only spend the night times going to sleep in your berth. You stay the heck away from that. You're wandering around in the mall in the middle of the ship. You're wandering around the pools, the beautiful spas, the gym, whatever that is there to take advantage of. The restaurants, the bars, and this ship has that in spades. It has a full scale high end restaurant. It has a bar. It has a pool. It has a spa. It has a full size hangar. People can come and go off of this ship at different spots without the ship having to go into Atmo. And that's why I believe the hangar's there, by the way. The hangar that takes up a large percentage of this ship is very valuable because, well, we talked about the 85Xs being able to squeeze in here, but much bigger ships can. I've personally put my 325A in here and then tried to stack a second one, and it almost worked. um, it's a very large area. Um, I would say that that is the true value of this ship. Being able to do those off and on, constant moving, multiple legs to a trip flights that will make it money. And I hope that VIP missions at some point will be complex enough for this ship. In the meantime, this ship has two crazy valuable things about it that I'll explain why the first one is good and the second one for right now is not so good. The first one is it has capital class shields. It has big shields on it. It has a massive fuel load. You and all your org mates can have parties on here. You can shoot machinima on here. You can do all sorts of exciting things, and it has all the space on board to do all sorts of cool things. And with the hangar, with the bottom part that can fit a full-scale Nova tank, at least experimentally right now, you can do some really fun things. You could, in theory, land this next to an outpost and just watch those little guns fire away on it once they're in, and just laugh at it. Like you can just sit there all day, leave the power on of the ship. It's never gonna pop this ship. But what this ship brings is those type of like fun things. It also brings a tier 2 medical bed, so you can regenerate on this ship. And it has a massive 40, I think it's like 40, might be 30, might be 36 scale weapon rack right next to the medical bed. So you can hop out, jump into on the same deck, get out of the medical bed, go to the weapons racks, and then go back to the back where the Nova tank is and hop in. Or you can go forward to the hangars and get picked up again as yet another flight out of here to go to the battlefront. Yes, I seriously suggested nonsense like that. Now, I'd love to see an 890 jump versus an Ares Ion, where something that can just peck at it and peck at it and peck at it all day. I'm curious how many ions it would take to take down an 890 jump, especially once we start balancing these Ares for other ships. I do not believe that an ion can take down this ship by itself once the ship is balanced. I'm sure there's some video somebody can point at when this ship has just spawned and its shields aren't up, aren't 100% yet, and so it's starting from a point of weakness. And I'm sure something has popped this or that. But over time, I think this ship will be balanced correctly, and in those scenarios, once again, the shields will, once they're up, they're up. And I can't help but wonder what this ship will be like in rather lawful space, where you will face severe consequences for trying to break one of these things. And it will give the authorities enough time to come and help you. This ship, like I said, is a long-term look at things. what will VIP missions look like in the future? What will they need to be? What will we need? What are we asking of the game? And how will this ship be able to meet or not so meet those expectations? So while the 600i series, I point at the Explorer and mention all the value it has already, and I'm already excited to see what it'll get in the Golden Pass. And I talk about the touring, and I talk about how it's a sleeper for the events because there's so many rooms on this ship already, and all they need is VIPs go to their room and sit there on a small enough ship where the fuel isn't such a ridiculous cost and the upkeep isn't a ridiculous cost. These vehicles are a near future, 2022, early 2022. We're going to see a really shiny set of ships either way. The 890 jump to me is a longer term investment. I see this ship as something that maybe not necessarily, I think it'll eventually be worth that 950 USD, but when? When is the question mark? Now, granted, 10-year insurance, or if you can find LTI on it still somewhere, wherever you find that, great. But I seriously wonder about when that's going to happen, where this ship is going to come into its golden age, and that may take a long time. So this vehicle would certainly be a goal to buy in game. I think of T-Jack, and he talked about with me about how he bought one in game for the fun of it right before the big wipe, and for 315.1 or just 315, and I would say that for 32.9 million UEC, 32.2 million UEC, 32.9, just under UEC. This is certainly something that would be an organizational goal for sure. Maybe everybody buys that one guy who's always on one of these. You know who I'm talking about. That guy or girl is like the anchor of the whole organization that like is always online. Buying one of these at like say around now, making that a goal for the next few months is like, hey, let's buy one of these, because there's not going to be a persistence wipe for probably a year at the minimum. So having one of these sitting around and being able to pull it out once in a while on somebody is a nice touch, or a personal goal, picking one of these up. But just understand it's going to be fun. And the 85X does come with one of these, so that's a nice little perk. So there you go. That's $50. But I just have a hard time thinking about buying this ship for 950 USD. It was at a price point around 750-ish, I think, before, and that was probably closest to where I would feel comfortable. And its original price of like 600 USD, it would be a gold mine. I mean, take a look at where these are going to wander to. I'm speculating they're going to hit 525 with the 600i series. But that is where we're at right now with Origin. And I would say the bigger you go with Origin, the more value and the more luxury you're going to have until you hit to the 890 jump, where I have some serious marks. And I'm just going to come out and say it. I wish they'd just make this thing a K already, because at least if it was 1,000, you automatically get LTI. It's sitting at this 950 price point. It's just a real kick in the head for the sheer cost of it, because it doesn't have LTI. It keeps the 10-year. If you're going to spend this kind of real world money, credit or not, it would be best to see it come together as an LTI based ship. So this is one of the few ships I'm actually rooting for a price increase eventually, and I hope to see it hit 1K for the sake of people that are, the folks who are really looking at this as something that I'm investing in for a long term. I'm spending that kind of money on this type of product, on the backing this much. On to Crusader, and I really wish they would stop marketing this way, where they're showing an Idris being blown apart by just a pair of Ares. So why do I feel that that's a silly way to look at this ship? First, and yes, I know Jimmy shot an Ion at it twice or something and blew an outdated Idris out of the sky or something and blew it apart. But one of the things to remember about the Idris is the Idris K in particular and the M. And don't kid yourself, everybody in the game will immediately take their Ps if they don't even have a K kit yet and buy the products in game to turn it into a K or ish type product. It has an immense amount of missiles. It has a PDS system, which we still don't know if the PDSs will shoot at fighters. But let's stick with the manned turrets, the remote turrets, and the missile turrets on this ship. They have more than enough capabilities to blow these Ares apart. Now, they said when Ninetales Lockdown came in, Xenothreat Incursion. When Xenothreat Incursion came in, they had to tune down the NPC gunners because they would focus fire on a single target and blow apart even heavy fighters within seconds. Bear that in mind when you think of the Ares. Yes, it is I think the literal advertising said capital ship killer. Yes, in a pile of Areses, you can do some serious stuff. Are you going to blow the engine off of one of these? Probably. If you had 7 Infernos that were on a suicide mission, you could probably blow one of these engines off. Sure. Are you going to destroy the ship where literally the bridge is in burning flames and the entire structure of the ship is falling apart? No. No, you're not. For starters, the ship is going to blow you apart when the minute you enter its hot zone. Usually around a ship, there will be zones of fire where if you get close enough to actually warrant your weapon systems can actually do serious damage to the ship will be already hurting you, will already be destroying your little Ares. And furthermore, that's not even counting the fact this ship has three heavy fighters on board. I'm just picturing 3 Super Hornets, what they would do to a pile of Ares that can only strafe in a straight line. So I'm being realistic. I'm not being harsh. I'm not picking apart the Ares, but from minute 1, please do not buy these if you think just you and your friend are going to take down an Idris together. Maybe an unmanned one, sure. But if an Idris is sitting there by itself without any cover, without even NPC gunners on guard duty, sure. But I don't think that is do not buy it for that reason because it won't happen. That is not going to happen. So just, okay, we got there. Now we're going to talk about the Ares. For real, what are these ships meant for? For starters, these ships, the Inferno in general, is actually a great vehicle buster. So the Inferno is going to be a lot like an A-10. It can take down a scarily fast take down a Nova tank or a ballista. And you will need multiple ballista to be able to counter just a single Ares Inferno, because it will be able to use the ground cover, unless you have a really good spot, the ground cover to be able to sneak up and attack a single ballista. However, interestingly, it seems like the scanning range on these ships is going to be rather weak. So one of the things that I would suggest is having good reconnaissance. Maybe somebody sneaks up and plants a beacon or something nearby to give you exactly where your target is. And out of these 2 ships, the thing to remember with the Inferno is this size 7 ballistic cannon does run out of ammunition. It's not as fast as I thought it would be. It's actually pretty good, but it does run out of ammunition. Whereas the Ion uses an energy clip system, so over time it will regenerate ammo. So what you can do with an Ion especially is do boom and zoom tactics, where you can constantly peck at something, zip away, come back with a full load of energy, and then drop even more Ion goodness on them over and over and over again. This is a great sustain ship and would be perfect in PvE style combat when you're fighting the very things I just talked about with Ninetales Lockdown, etc. If you have other people that it's busy shooting at, you can get in and get out with this. The Inferno can do some of those tactics, but to a lesser extent. Eventually, it will need to go back to a station or a large ship and get rearmed with more ammunition, and probably get patched up, to be fair, just like the Ion, with whatever's attacking it. So you will take damage in these things. They are single seat fighters, so a lot of information is going to be taken by the pilot of the ship that needs to be managed and handled. A wing of these things together is a fearful sight. A single one of these will make a Connie be very scared, but a pile of these will certainly do some serious damage. So I hope you don't think I was being harsh when I look at the art and the literal words capital ship killer put in the other section where they have like a whole page devoted to the Ares now. And I see them and I just cringe at them, because I'm hoping that people are able to see that these ships are, yes, they will do damage to a large capital ship. Yes, they will do serious damage to that ship if it's sitting there doing nothing. But understand the ship will be killing you too. So that kind of takes some of the fun out of it. And your actions will have consequences, and this type of damage would need to have an entire wing of Areses hammering away on something. And then we go back to the topic of how much ammo is ammo. With the Inferno, does it have the sustainment to be able to sit there for however long it takes to take down capital ships? And the answer is, I don't think so. I think it's going to need to go back and rearm. It's going to have the retaliator effect. It either sucker punches something and really knocks it out within a couple volleys, or it's going to have to go back and rearm. But once again, the Inferno did shock me about how it has a reasonable amount of ammunition for a good amount of runs before it has to go back. The Ion is, unsurprisingly, very, very good. Now, I will mention that the energy-based weapons, if you don't already know this, they're stopped by shields. They do serious amounts of damage to shields, but they do get stopped by shields. Whereas the ballistics pass through, for the most part, through shields. So that does bear mentioning. So you may have situations where Infernos, say 5 or 6 or even 7 of them, swing through, knock out a couple key subsystems of a large ship, or capital class ship, and then run away. Run out of dodge and hope that they only lost half of their ships. So, for example, I think of, say, the radar on a Javelin. If they manage to get past this screen of all those guns and all those support vessels and hammerheads hammering on them, trying to get in, this may actually be a strategy, a very viable strategy, and a way to punish your enemy for not being prepared. The example I presented above to try to give you a reality check is, what if this ship had proper support? What if this ship has at least NPC gunners on guard duty and that has those fighters available, etc.? Well, what if it doesn't? Well, the answer is the Ares can really tear it apart. So this, to me, these ships also give you the ability to punish ships and really tear them apart for not being prepared. These ships give the little guy the ability to fight larger ships and put the fear into them, and I could see a few of these really doing a lot of damage. And I keep emphasizing that because a squad of these things is really going to be the way to go. By themselves, they don't have an immense amount of maneuverability. They have a fixed weapon system on the front. They will get eaten alive by fighters. Any other fighter will eat these things alive, unless you're really lucky on your boom and zoom tactics. And by boom and zoom, I mean you physically strafe in, straight ahead, shooting at things and barely moving, and then start maneuvering away on an angle and attempting to basically circle around to do another pass. That's the way you kind of attempt to do what's called boom and zoom. If you've played War Thunder, you played DCS, you know what I'm talking about. The type of vehicles, the aircraft that are designed to do those type of things. I envision that the Ares are great at boom and zoom. And full disclosure, I am not the best dogfighter, so take this as all as what you will. But this is where I see that ship right now. This is where I see it in the future. I do not see a couple Areses as being able to take down a capital class ship without serious backup or without catching them without any support to speak of, any gunners, any fighters on board, tearing them up, trying to scare them off. Yeah, they're certainly resetting the battlefield a little bit in an interesting way, but at what cost, and what are the limitations of the ship? I hope I kind of emphasized both. I hope I didn't pick on them, but at the same time, brought them back to reality a little bit. Very cool ship, very exciting. Don't go upgrading every ship you have to an Ares. That's all I'm getting at. Okay, Mercury. So the Mercury Starliner is a really cool ship. I feel like that a lot of people have this mentality with the Mercury of it being the all-in-one ship, because it is. It is. It has scanning capacity, an entire room devoted to scanning and computers. It also does data running in the hallway. It's really awkward, but like when you're walking down the hallway, you just turn your head and you're walking past piles of computers racks, as far as the eye can see on that one hallway. And so it'll be able to data run. It has advanced scanning packages with a whole room devoted to the scanning suite. It has a cargo area that can fit an Ursa rover and can still squeeze in some other stuff if you're brave enough. and it has an entire, you didn't hear this, bad guys, smuggler area devoted to literally a hidden room, and then a second set of hidden hallways that are underneath the entire ship that lead to the break room, basically the ship's rec room. Underneath the chessboard, you take the little, I think it's the knight, like the knight or the rook, and you place that onto the cup holder that's on the table. Or is it the queen? It's one of the white pieces, I think. But anyway, um, chessboard moves out of the way, and you have instant access to a place you can go hide. Pull the chess piece, it closes back up like nothing ever happened. A very cool ship, very transformative ship. I've heard a lot of people compare it to the mighty Millennium Falcon for a lot of obvious reasons. The disc, the gunner seats are really cool. I like the turrets a lot, like the Millennium Falcon. They're near each other. One is below and one is above the ship, and they have good coverage. I think the turrets are a little on the smaller side, dare I say it, because of what they were built in the older days of the game, concepted in the older days. But the ship still, I think the ship's awesome. I really like the way the engineering area is near the cargo area. It kind of lends itself very well to bringing new modules onto the ship and dragging them over. I also like the fact there's an elevator and a ladder. Yes, I said an elevator. Some people actually are surprised when I mention there's an elevator because they're so busy just climbing up the side of the ladder. So you can bring those modules up top into the second floor. And that also invites an interesting concept of if you're taking a massive amount of data storage equipment through, say, a cart or walking out with a large box, you can then use the elevator to bring you down safely, not some throw it down and then climb down the ladder in some awkward way. It's very professional ship. It feels professional. It feels right. It has beds for 3 people. It's it's a ship that I really like. I think the MSR is one of those ships where it it it's just I think it's one of those ships that I would buy in game or buy in the store, because I'm looking at the buy in game price is 4.9 mil right now. Yeah, I get it. I look at it and I just get it. The scanning, the data running, the cargo area is reasonable in size. Um, yeah, 114 SCU. It's not the biggest cargo area, but then I gotta remember there's data running as well. So this ship is great for that type of behavior, and it has reasonable shielding for its size. It has a lot of cool factor, 2 size 2 shields as well to keep it alive. Gives turret good coverage. Good ship. 260 USD is a crime for this ship. I think this will probably jump out to 3 by the time this game's finally, in beta. Okay. On to the C2, the Hercules series, and then I can see the Genesis Starliner's wing hiding here. It's kind of sad when I've played the... You spend enough time with these ships, and you just kind of get to know the concept art even. Not even just their in-game shots, their concept art. But anyway, the C2 Herc is a great ship, even at the $400 price point. I preferred it. I think it was like 360-ish. It can squeeze an immense amount of cargo in this thing. I think it's like 600-ish. Yeah. It's definitely a buying game or buy in the store. I really like the C2s. I will mention that unlike the M2, it lacks the chin turret. It's a shame because I really do like the chin turret on this type of ship. It gives it a little more versatility. The main gun on this ship is this rear-facing one that's in this cowling, which makes it look cool and it makes it more aerodynamic, but unfortunately gives it a very poor range of fire. So like you're shooting from over here to over here, these winglets are in the way, and then also the lack of being able to face forward with the fire with the weapon. Now the crew do have under these doors 2 weapons that are hiding. Let's see if this M2 shows them. No, it doesn't. But the M2 has 2 weapons that sit here. I think they're size 4s, and they are pretty good. I would recommend this ship. I think the aerodynamics of it are pretty good. It has some really nice storage on the second floor of the vehicle at the top floor. It sleeps 2, if I'm not mistaken. So I think with a lot of things, we have to look very carefully. 696 SEU, and the storage of these ships, all the Herculeses, are limited by the fact that if you start putting vehicles in, you lose storage space. So by having this have light armor and lighter armor than the M2 and the A2, and it lacking the weapon systems, and it only sleeping 2, I would still say it's still worth it, but mainly because of the individual storage space, and if you're okay with it only having 2 crew. It's kind of got the Liberator effect, where it's a shame. I really wish this thing had sleeping for 3, because it really could use a third person, especially if you're actively using this all over the place. I think of this thing making deliveries all over Pyro, and people being able to log out and log in as they wish, kind of joining in the fun and joining in the action and making some cred, and then being able to sleep again as something valuable. Well, having 2 beds does limit this ship, but it's still a damn good ship. I highly recommend it. Buying it in-game or buying it in the store. I highly recommend this ship. At the same price point, another ship I highly recommend, even at the 400 price point, but I missed it being in the 300 USD bracket, is the Genesis Starliner. The Genesis Starliner is an amazing ship. It's a 2, if you ask some people, even 3 stories. I think I saw some of the concepts, but most of them are 2 stories. A ship that's supposed to seat like up to 90 passengers, and it's supposed to have a passenger/cargo design, a full-on passengers with like VIPs up top design, a bar, casino, seating area for regular passengers, business class, and first class passengers, /VIPs, kind of, if you get the vibe, mix, all these different concepts, even a military transport in an old Around the Verse. I'll try to find my old video on the Genesis from reviewing that old Around the Verse with modern eyes, and I'll put it in the cards at the end of this video. But this ship is a sleeper and a half. I mentioned the 435 USD, 600 high touring. In the longer vision, this ship, which is one of Jared's favorites, is the new Jared favorite after the Carrack, is going to be an immense sleeper. I think in the next few years we will see this ship get fleshed out, and I stand by what I said in the 600i touring discussion and VIP discussion I had earlier. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. Please don't click away for that reason, at least. But the Genesis, I think this is going to be rolled out with a single variant of its concepts. So it will have, say, the VIP section, and this is speculation, but I truly believe that would make sense to do a full-on VIP style build, because there'll be less people if it's VIP built out. I also think the ship will grow greatly. When I take a look at the fleet pick areas of different discords on Spectrum, it's a very small ship right now. But when it gets modernized, this ship is going to grow. And that price is going to grow with it. I mean, even if you look at the people next to this ship, it needs to be 2 times the length. And I think it's going to get the Banu merchantman treatment. These wings are going to fold in to fit the largest pads, so this Genesis Starliner can fit in the correct places it needs to fit. Do not be dissuaded by the style of this ship, the shape of this ship. It will all be elongated. It will fold in its wings. It will make the necessary requirements to be commercialized as a vessel. This ship is supposed to be everywhere. This ship is meant so you're in the future, you will be able to literally go and pay money, pay UEC, to be taken from spaceport to another spaceport safely, and you can go do your laundry. That's the idea with this ship. But I take this a step further. In a previous video, I talked about how I really would like this Genesis to have mini games on board. So you can stay AFK, just sit in your seat comfy and go do what you got to do, or have some fun with it. It would be really cool to see player and NPC bounty hunters checking people's backgrounds to try to find wanted people, and then the wanted people trying to use this ship to sulk around quietly to avoid most of the roadblocks on the if they were in a ship getting scanned by the authorities and then determining they have a crime stat. It would be fun for them to be hiding on these ships to get around. It'd be really exciting for bounty hunters and their prey to be on these ships, and NPCs and players as well. So, do you take them down? And only non-lethal terms are allowed on these ships. So that'd be very exciting, very fun. I could see especially a VIP style ship with like the casino, the bar, and then also that that background of the bounty hunter trying to feel people out. Who's the bad guys, you know? That would be really fun. You can make this ship so exciting for so many different kinds of players. And that's just on the NPC ones. I don't even want to imagine. It'd be hard to imagine what players can do with these. So I hope to see mini games on these ships. That's speculation. And my speculation as well, as I mentioned before, I feel that they'll roll out the VIP one first. That's the one that's going to get a lot of people's eyes to look at this and go, ooh, ah. And I think the VIP missions will be the first NPC passenger missions that you can do because it makes sense. You only have to have a few of them to make the money and make sense. Can you imagine if you rolled out regular passenger missions and the server only allowed to have like 5 AI NPCs wander onto your ship and there's like 90 seats and everybody takes screenshots of it? It'd be really embarrassing. But if there's 5 staterooms on board and they're all designed exactly the same way on all Genesises, and the AI is designed to literally walk into each of the staterooms and sit there at first, there you go. And then a patch later, a .1 patch later, then the NPCs start going to the bar. The NPC starts going to the restaurant, the casino, whatever it is, and they do different actions. There you go. And then finally, the final step is like they physically come onto the ship, they do their thing, they go to their rooms, whatever. They come out and they exit the ship, and then you get credit for the sail. You get credit for the ship journey. That is the way to start rolling out passenger missions in the right way. That's really something good. And that's all speculation on my part, but I feel with my bones that that's going to be the way they go. And this ship is going to be kind of like, aside from the 435 USD 600i Touring Edition and the RSI Phoenix, I think this will be one of the first of the VIP missions. Those short runs in Stanton, from Area 18 to New Babbage is a good example. Something that's just long enough to be really warranted, but at the same time, it's a rather short trip. So it wouldn't really be like something where you have to warp between systems or something crazy. So I see this as a long-term hold. I would recommend it even at the 400 USD price point. I saw it was in buyback, CCU already, but price will go up. Its price will go up. Okay, it's the M2 Herc. I've mentioned it already. I love the chin gun on this ship. I love the fact it can be operated by the co-pilot, or the gunning seat, I think, behind them. And I love the fact that you start getting into the world of more than 2 crew on this ship. And I would say that with the third crew seat, with the third crew bed, and the fact they added a kitchen back into this, they added a kitchenette to this ship, it's really a good ship. It has a bunk room for the basically the drivers of the stuff below, instead of like a rec room on the C2. It has proper restrooms. It has all the hygiene, just like the C2. You don't lose. What I'm getting at is you don't lose anything but your storage space. So it is listed as 522 SU cargo instead of just under 700 SU cargo. However, it doesn't actually lose anything in the ship area, the cargo area. What we're dealing with here is the fact that it has that heavy armor ramped up all over it. So this thing has heavier armor, and that weight shows. And the theory right now is only when you're in atmosphere on it, or a gravity-based planet or moon, will you feel that weight. So say in space, if you're going from station to station, you won't really notice that weight until you come to a stop. But you should be able to kind of dock or land at a large pad overloaded, and we'll see. However, you would have to hand do that, not use the computer system to do that, because I think it'll hard limit you at the 522. Buying and selling off the cargo grids. And the other factor is, if you do go into Atmo with overloaded, you're going to crash, and you're only going to land once. So bear that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about what this thing is and is not. It has the personalized storage space on the second floor, and then has an extra bed, which is perfect for smaller organizations to operate. Logistically, the thing is just amazing. I mean, you have all that storage space, 8 million micro SCUs. A lot like the C2, it has a kitchenette. It has the ability to have beds, 3 instead of 2 even. And it has that chin turret that helps give it better coverage for fighting off enemy ships, and it gives it more control of the ground. The reason I like that chin turret so much is because this whole front opens up underneath here, and you get a ramp that protects that you roll off your vehicles, your cargo, whatever. You don't have to open both ramps, and I wouldn't. What I would do is I would open that front ramp and I would have somebody on the crew manning the chin turret. And the deal is I would have people buying and selling all goods and services kind of hang out right in front of the chin turret. If anything goes down, chin turret takes care of it. So I see this ship as a great outpost negotiator. It has proper armor, so you could shrug off quite a lot of hits, I would say, if you get surprised by enemy ships or by ground turrets. And if you land at the wrong outpost, you can just kind of wander away. Hopefully you're still alive and live to tell the tale. Whereas the C2 will probably take some serious injuries at the very least trying to get away with that later armor, especially if it's ballistic-based weapon systems being pointed at it. And it doesn't have the chin turret to kind of help with negotiations and help keep things peaceful. So that's kind of my perspective on the M2. I think it's a great ship. I do believe 120 USD additional is not worth it. I think this is a buy in game. It's only 5.2 million in game, 5.225 million AUEC right now. So, I mean, even that topic is for another day, but it's only 1.2 mil more than the C2 in game. So, less. So it's only a million UEC difference. This is definitely a buy in game. And if you're going to buy the C2 in game, you might as well just save up a little bit more and get the M2. Maybe buy the C2 in the store, use that to earn the M2. Then you have both, and you can pick and choose whichever mission you want to do. And on to the very overpriced, but I see a special upgrade offer. I'm not surprised. For A2. Okay, let's take a step back here. Let's think about this for a minute. First of all, I love this paint job for it. But anyway, let's take a step back here. The A2 is a bomber. It sacrifices an immense amount of its storage space, because even though it keeps most of the storage area, its cargo is only 216 SCU. Now, once again, it falls into that same category as the M2, where I firmly believe you can just fill this thing up and just make sure you don't go into Atmo. But this thing is meant to live in Atmo because it's meant to bomb atmosphere. Its bombs do not function in space. They sit still. Unless they change that in the future, its bombs are literally useless unless you're attacking a ground installation or target on the ground. However, when it is working on those, its size 10 mother of all bombs and its smaller cluster bombs are really useful. It has two racks. It has one on the side, one on this side of the back. And while we don't have the cluster bombs yet, as I understand it, you will be able to do two mother of all bombs on the one side instead of four. And then the cluster bombs on the other side, you can do a whole grid of the cluster bombs. So that would be a great way to run this A2. Is like, hey, I've got cluster bombs for smaller ground units, and then I keep the MOABs in the back pocket for dealing with entrenched emplacements, defensive turrets, that kind of thing, that are like really, really dug in. Or a vehicle that's air vehicle like a C2 that's landed, maybe drop an MOAB or two on it. These weapons are very powerful, but they're only powerful against vehicles on the ground, or if you're very, very lucky, I guess cluster bombs you could drop and hope you hit like an Aurora flying by or something. But the point is, they're in Atmo. This ship can still field a full-size Nova or Ballista out the front door. It does have the chin turret of the M2 I like so much, and it has the heavy armor. It also has a ridiculous amount of turrets on the bottom of it. It's comparable to like a turtle. It gains an immense amount of weaponry. We're talking about pairs of 4 size 5 remote turrets. We're talking about another cannon that's a size 5, a pair of size 5 almost Merskys. So that's an incredible amount of armament. And that's not even talking about the 6 size 4s that we were talking about as well. The way it's outlaid is like 7 or so turrets on the bottom of this ship. And a lot of its walkways are turrets. You run to the sides and there's turrets that they lead down to. Or the remote. There's also a remote room on the second floor that has multiple seats as size things. This ship does have a small kitchenette. This ship does have some area for crew. This ship does have 3 beds. But it does not have the cargo space officially there. It does have the localized 8 million micro SCU in the centralized bays along the center vein. However, it is, once again, a ship that's meant for one thing, taking down and really taking down ground-based combat. This thing will be a beast in outpost operations, but I'm not sure it's worth it. I think this is a buying game, even though it's not available in game yet. I think when by the time outposts are finally in and they're in players' hands, where this thing is really going to shine, I believe this ship will be a buy-in game, and it'll be $1 million or $2 million more than the M2, and that's it. And we're can pull together their cash, their AUEC, and buy one of these. And the few times that it's broken out is no big deal. That's where my head's at with the ship. I think that a combination of 2 of these A2s would be even nastier, because when this thing is flying in circles above you or hovering there or something, it's going to want to move. But moving around and stuff, I think people will try to wait it out and try to employ strategies of the ballista will fire at it and such when it's furthest arc away from it. I think a combination of 2 of these A2s will have really nice coverage, so they'll kind of wander in and out. And if one of them takes a serious damage on one of its engines, it can maneuver away and retreat while the other one hammers away at whatever shot at the other A2. I also think that dropping bombs means the obvious here. Once you drop your full bomb load and then your cannons are starting to run low on ammunition, and you start burning through your extra ammunition, or if ammunition respawning from cargo isn't in yet, you're going to need to go back to a pad and rearm this thing. And it's going to need a large pad in order to land and get rearmed until that's implemented in game. So this ship is going to need some logistics, serious logistics. Even when you can rearm this in the field, the ammunition is going to be a huge load on this thing, pallets of ammunition. And the bombs, like the Moab, for example, especially, they're massive. They're massive. They're like the size of a cyclone. So you're going to need some serious armament, and they're not going to be cheap. They will be balanced. I will add something weird. We tested this thing out and found that it took out and killed every single person inside a bunker mission. But then the second time we tested it on another micro patch on the 315 Pt2, it did not kill everybody in the bunker mission. So I think they're trying to calibrate how much this is really going to bunker bust with those Moabs. So people can't just fly up to a bunker mission and drop a Moab and fly away with the victory, or land and steal all the stuff inside and loot it and then come out and fly with the victory. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I think they're calibrating this ship. I do confirm that in the latest patch, I've personally seen it kill a Nova, with the bomb landed near the Nova and killed the Nova. So those Moabs are nasty. They're meant for that type of work. I can't ignore the fact that this at $750 USD, if you're still even considering purchasing it in the store, it's the same price as a Polaris. I can't ignore that. A Polaris that has medical facilities, has a proper armory, has size 10 torpedoes, racks of them. It can reload and send volleys of them. A capital class radar. So out of the 2, if I was going to pick something that was $750 USD, I would pick the Polaris every single time. Every time. So yeah, the A2 is a buying game to me, even though it's not available yet. I think by the time it's needed, Outpost will be in, and you can pick it up for not much more than the M2. So it's a bad cost to value ratio. I will say that if you are that person, I've said this for a couple times, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who said it, but if you're that person who knows this is the type of ship for you, that this is what you live and breathe, is ground combat, and you love that type of stuff, the A2 is hard to beat, and it has LTI, and you and your boys can roll around in this thing as like a battle bus and have a blast. It's like a battle bus on steroids. And this ship is useful in space. You could spin it upside down, and that turtle of a ship is going to just tear everything apart in sight once it gets close enough to them. So I don't know. The pair of size 4 Gatlings the pilot has are probably a little lacking for that type of gameplay, but all the turrets are going to have a blast. The ridiculous amount of size 5s you have and size 4s are going to just have a blast. And then the pilot does get to drop the bombs, unless the co-pilot wants to do that. Unless they change that yet again, where the pilot can't do it. But because I think they really want the co-pilot to be the bomb dropper. They want to try to split up duties in that ship. But anyway, I see it as an M2 on steroids. Okay. without the cargo capacity. So that is Crusader, and it seems like they might have listened to me because, or I can dream, but Tumbril Land Systems, it wasn't on the same exact bill, but it was on the same page, which I appreciate. So let's take a look at the Tumbril Land vehicles, and we will go price low to high, like the other ones. The Ranger series is 3 different bikes. I like them a lot. I don't think they are a buy out of game. I think they're great for referral bonuses. I hope they see them in the future on the referrals, although I would like to see the Nox more so. But anyway, the CV is the basic one. The Ranger RC is the recon one, and it's more stealthy. You can clearly see that it's meant to be that way. And then the TR is the combat one. I actually own right now a Ranger TR, but that'll probably be CCU by the end of the sale, by the end of the annual sale. And I like the cannons on it. I think the Ranger RC could also be a racing one. It's pretty slick. Yeah. The CV is nice with the extra cargo. You can see a nice little bit of cargo for box runs and such in the future. You know, it's more of an adventure bike if you're talking about motorcycles. I don't think any of these 3 is honestly worth the price because they don't float. I'm going to be brutal honest with you. I think these vehicles, they do scrunch up a little bit, but they're still kind of big. They're still concepted, though, so they might change again. But right now, there's no real value to having wheels. If you go down to the bottom of your ship, and this is the only thing you have down there, suddenly it's not usable in space. Whereas the hover bikes can kind of be used in space to get you around. Can kind of be used as an escape mechanism to get away from a ship being attacked by pirates or something even. This thing is just sitting there. On an outpost, I could see a few of these being bought in game and kind of kicked around, but for these price points, buying them in the store, taking up a space in your hangar, well, you have infinite space in your hangar to be fair, but I'm kind of the poster child for that. But but the point is that these vehicles, although I have a love in real life for motorcycles, I don't see them as a practical thing to pick up. Okay, the Cyclones. Speaking of practical things to pick up, the Cyclones are really cool. The basic one I don't like too much. It's basically like a cargo in the back. Although with Outpost, I can definitely see the value of that, like I keep saying. The Cyclone RC gives up the space in the back, has a deployable beacon system that we haven't really seen in game yet, but very cool. It can also race. Sorry, that's the Cyclone RN. Beacon system on a Cyclone RN. But the Cyclone RC is the racing one. There is no racing of ground vehicles right now. The Damware Rally is a real thing, I guess. So once a year, there's a use for those. I'll buy this in game for that day, rent it for that weekend. But anyway, the Cyclone RN, very cool ship, very cool vehicle because it has 2 seats, has a deployable beacon. As I'm sure you're noticing, the person is exposed to the elements in these vehicles. You do need to have just like on the art motorcycles, you do need to have a suit on, a helmet, if you're not in breathable atmo. If somebody throws tear gas or something else at you, you will be breathing it unless you're wearing a suit. Just a thought. The G12s we talked about in the Origin series, the Ursa Rover, the Ballista, and the Spartan of the Atlas series do not have that issue. This kind of looks like Jimmy from that angle, from that helmet. Not in white, though. Anyway, here is the Cyclone MT. I think this is one of the better of the Cyclones. It is the best of the Cyclones. One thing to mention is because of these large missile racks, it doesn't fit in the 400i anymore, unfortunately. So it has some clearance issues on some ships that are kind of like that ship that you would kind of want something like this in. But anyway, it has 3 seats. The passenger seat's basically just a passenger seat. This seat in the back is the turret gunner. You cannot operate it via pilot, driver. But this is a really useful tool. There was a theory crafting that this was invented for, because it didn't exist until recently. This Cyclone AA, is that what's going to be? Yeah. Cyclone AA that has a small EMP, very small, too small right now, needs to be buffed. It has a missile rack in the back that folds up and in, that fits in better clearance in smaller ships, but it's very expensive. Its lock-on system was added to see these 4 missiles here. Not a coincidence, I suspect. This thing has 4 missiles. With a cannon, because it was theory crafted that theaters of war needed it. Theaters of war needed a vehicle that had some AA capabilities and some ground capabilities with this small cannon or large machine gun, whatever it is. It does a lot of damage, whatever the heck it is. This vehicle can do a ton of damage, and it's in the combat triangle of maneuverability, firepower, and defensive nature. this thing is full maneuverability with a lot of firepower. It's like those two of the combat triangle kind of combined. So that was the theory crafting of this vehicle, was as a theaters of war creation. This thing's overpowered. Pick it up if you really want a ground vehicle, as long as you're understanding that this vehicle will not give you an atmo. So if you're on a lava planet or an ice planet, it might not be the best option, because you have to figure out how to do whatever you're going to do in a few minutes. Whereas an Ursa rover, an Atlas, a G12, you can hop in it and comfy sitting there and plan out whatever you're going to do next without suffocating or overheating or freezing to death. So this thing's meant to zip around. It is perfect for an Atmo planet. It is perfect for a not too hot, not too cold planet, a Goldilocks planet or moon. Cyclone IAE I just talked about. And finally, the Nova. The Nova, it sits at 120 USD. It is the anti-Spartan, the anti-Ballista. However, I've theory crafted that the Ballista may sit in a situation where if it sees a Nova far enough away, so if the Ballista is able to pick its terrain it fights on, like it's sitting in a high ground position, the Ballista may be able to direct fire the Nova before the Nova can direct fire the Ballista. And the Ballista tends to have a lock-on system. So I really want to test this in 3.15.1, but if it is able to do what it's supposed to do, the Nova may be taken out, or at the very least combat disabled, before it can get into real range to tear apart the Ballista. But if the Nova does manage to land a shot or two on the Ballista, it will be not exactly in existence anymore. So that's really what the Nova's meant to do. So a Liberator can fit 2 of these things, an M2, a C2 can fit 2 of these things at the very least, and it's meant to roll off the racks outside of the Ballista's range and then zip in and knock out the Ballista. And I say zip in, it's pretty fast. This vehicle, despite its weight and its size, and it's like 3 to 4 crew, it's fast. This vehicle also has a, right now it's just regular missiles in the back here, like size 1s, but in the future, aside from its cannons on top, aside from the main cannon and all that other cool stuff, it will have a regenerating plasma missile on board that will fire and fire and fire and just keep reloading its energy clip, essentially, of plasma missiles. Because in the old days, when they were fighting some aliens, Devarin, I believe, specifically, the Devarin had this tactic against the Nova where they would attack it with these small little vehicles and small little like mech suits or whatever the heck, and they would force the Nova to waste its main armament and secondary armaments to the point it literally ran out of ammunition. And then the Devarin would come up with like plasma cutters and stuff and like break the Novas apart. They couldn't defeat the Nova, but they defeated the Nova through just disarming it. So the UEE army panicked and was like, how do we defeat these things? So what they did was they invented a plasma mechanism where they could fire basically a junk weapon system at a junk defensive system that was attacking them. So they had these plasma charges that would constantly be refillable by the power plant on board to take out these small, barely even acceptable military vehicles and armor sets and stuff, and knock those out without wasting its main and secondary armaments. So fun little fact about the Nova is eventually it will have that plasma system in game. I think it's a cool vehicle. I wouldn't mind buying it as a waypoint on a CCU chain. So just like the Cyclone MT, by the way, a couple ago, 75 USD, I could see upgrading to this and then having another upgrade beyond this. Like, okay, look, I'm gonna have my fun now. I'm gonna have my fun in the near future, and then I'm gonna upgrade this to something I truly love. Maybe the Nova to the MSR, for example, or a Nova to 400i, for example, or something even further down the road. But I could see that. Or a buy-in game. I don't see the Nova as that expensive in a buy-in game situation, and it falls into that vehicles are very cheap. To give you an idea, Nova's 546,000 UEC. That's expensive, but for what it can do, that isn't that expensive. Also, one other thing to remember is it has life support on board for up to 3 crew. So you can keep 3 crew comfortably in this thing the entire time and drive around and everything. I will mention it's not a hover tank, so all those things I already mentioned about the motorcycles and the Cyclones, it does have those problems, except for the fact that it has breathable air for its crew. But anyway, long story made short, Nova's a great shit vehicle. I could definitely see this also defending outposts. Deploy this thing alongside a ballista and you got yourself a little party. I would even go as far as I hope in the future you can dig holes or trenches and be able to slap these in and put the Nova on an angle. That would be really fun, say in a valley where you're forcing the enemy to come up one direction, and be able to have like the Novas be able to roll up on the side of like a little small pop hill so the turret can then instantly go up even higher and higher, maybe even be an anti-aircraft gun. Like back it up against the wall in a cave or something, dig a hole, and then have it pointed upward slightly. You might have a fun surprise for people. And if they attack at the ground, then you just roll forward and go right over your little ramp you've made, and now you've got yourself a interesting thing. So in a prepared position, the Nova, I'm already envisioning a lot of hilarious ways to use this thing, and I would not want to get hit by a Nova, that main gun. So a couple pops out of that thing, which it fires fast, by the way, would be very exciting and very fun, very unique. Okay, so that's Tumbril wrapped up. We've done Crusader earlier in the video. If you hop back, if you're just skipping around, I covered Origin. This was a doubleheader day, technically a triple header really, because I'm covering Tumbril and Crusader, which was yesterday's coverings. They're still offered. If you're watching this video, focus on the Crusader and the Tumbril stuff sooner than later, because they'll be gone eventually, and then Origin will be left aside. And then tomorrow will be an exciting day because you've got Argo. So we have the Argo big freight vehicle. I'm still not leaking the name. There is a rumor mill about what the name is. I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but the vehicle that we're seeing, based on what the official shots are, we're seeing a vehicle that's designed to handle conventional cargo containers, and it has a mechanism on the front that they're literally showing you right there that can magnetically seal it to different locations, probably those cargo containers on the sides of hulls, C, Ds, and Es. So, and it may be able to do something else as well in support of industry of some sort, maybe even mining. So we'll see. Very exciting day. I can't wait to see Argo Day. I question why it's on the same day as Kanyu, because Consolidated Outland, yeah, their smaller vehicles are interesting, but you're putting the brand new Argo vehicle on the same day as the Pioneer. I'm not quite sure what the deal with that is, but hey, I'm not CIG. And you're putting both of them on Thanksgiving, when a day when a lot of people aren't going to be tuning in. So hopefully people will tune in on the 26th if they miss Thanksgiving. So when they're on their Black Friday, Cyber Monday adventures, they should be able to see the Argo and the Kanyu stuff right alongside the Kraken and all the other fine offerings like the Caterpillar from the Drake. Caterpillar's going to be a big day, and I have a lot of theory crafting to go into, and I'm hoping that the videos that are on Thursday and Friday this week are going to cover some of this stuff, so I can do less speculation and just more analysis, and then build on that analysis based on previous reports of what we're expecting from the modularity of the Caterpillar, from the capabilities of the Pioneer, and the changes that have happened in that ship. So please do tune in for those videos. I think you're going to love those as well. Let's get on the showroom floor. Enough digressing. One last thing before we get on the showroom floor. I suspect that people will notice, and I just want to make sure that people don't call me out on this or something. In my buyback is my Idris P I earned through the F5 Wars. It made its 24-hour turnaround, and now it's sitting in my buyback alongside my 890 jump and my C2 to M2 Hercules. I also traded that in to get prepared for the Idris P buyback. So if you, at some point in one of my videos, see my hanger and you're like, where's that Idris P you claim you got? There's where it ended up. Eventually it won't be there, but now it is. I need to be ready for MISC Day. As a reminder to folks, this is how you can afford to be able to move around ships, and this is how I make content. So if you're a content creator yourself, don't overstretch yourself just to be able to create content. This is how you do it, especially on credited stuff like my 890 jump and my Idris P. I constantly buy those out of buyback, buy them again to get the loaners and get the ship and get whatever, and then roll things back. There's other things in my buyback, rest assured, but a lot of stuff, but not a lot of stuff actually. I think they have 2 pages in there, and most of them are actually smaller ships, but there's a few big ships in there. So just a thought. I wanted to add full disclosure. Okay, so we need to talk a little bit about turrets. I'm on the Crusader Industries floor, and I wanted to point out that the turret on the C2, you can see the primary turret is up there, and it basically doesn't have coverage here. You can see the beautiful, by the way, across the entire Hercules series, the monumental doors and engines on the back of this ship are truly amazing. Hopefully it'll give me ramp access through the rental. Nope, it didn't. Ah! No, for some reason it won't. Oh, okay. I guess I'll have to go to the elevator to kind of show you inside. Which is here. Oh, the ramp did come down. Oh, okay. Did I do that, or did another player do that, or something? But anyway, here's the interior of the C2. The elevator goes to the first deck here, the second deck, which is the actual like living quarters and where the storage area is, and then the bottom deck is outside. So now that I called the elevator outside, we're gonna have to recall the elevator, or just go up the ladder. I'll just go up the dang ladder. I like the fact that the ladders are interior to this ship, and they are pretty common. You can also catch that these ladders are appropriately set up with the with an airlock. So if you have the outside open, you don't expose the entire ship to space, or at least not for too long, unlike the Valkyrie. Each one of these is a personal storage area. So if you're wondering why this ship has just so much personal storage, when you're not on the rental ship, you can actually access these. I'm not quite sure why I can't on this one, but you can open each and every one of these and fill them with storage. So that's kind of the future of storage. Instead of having the magic bin, you'll go to each one of those and have storage. Here's where the 2 sleeping quarters are, and here's where the lockers are for your clothing and such, and for your armor suits, I'd assume. Right there, all your stuff, and 2 more over here. Same style as the other ones. Now each person has their own little desk, which I do like, and then the bathroom is dead center. That's what WC stands for in the UK. There's 2 bathrooms for some reason. I forgot that. So good use of space. Don't know why each person has their own personal bathroom, and why you would put the bathroom, personally, especially this one. I hope they're noise canceled. But I would run basically a bathroom on this side, and then have a something else there, maybe suit storage or another weapon rack, or kind of like something more secure than the traditional storage area. Back here you can get to all your different parts you need to get to. I really like that you can get to each and every little piece. It's a modern ship. You can really see the component sizes now. They're pretty impressive, and that's why you need that elevator on the other side of these staircases. It's going to be a little awkward dragging the modules over here. Hopefully tractor beams can help you out without crushing anybody. Be careful. But you can use this large industrial elevator to get those parts in and out. On this side of the ship, on this specific ship, they have a rec room. And you can see these couches where people can hang out. Nice big TV, which you can't operate right now. And then you have your kitchen. So this is all kitchen services here. And then a nice little diner. This ship is well suited for a machinima, because you can shoot a nice shot here. Look at all that lighting that's coming off the table. Even how clever that is. I really like this whole style. And nice little fridge there, which you can't access, but with the redeemers showing that they're just starting that process. Hopefully soon we will. Food and drink you can put in there, and you can hang out, watch TV. So I like this ship. I think it's a great value for 400 USD for what it brings. We'll take the fancy commercial elevator out. The main area in the front has like 2 collars to get to the cockpit. I really don't need to go there, because I'm trying to hit 3 large ships within the span of only a few minutes. So let's try and get in. We will exit the ship instead of go to the lower deck, and we'll leave this on the ground to help people out. There are 2 ramps on this ship that are full access, and I guess we can hit the A2 next, because it's right over here. Here's the Nova tanks. Interestingly, there's 3 of them, where really you're only supposed to legitimately fit 2 of these into the M2 and the C2, and only 1 of these in the A2. You can see the main gunner seat is here. The driver is this one, I think, right here. And then this is like the commander seat on like a military vehicle is over here, / co-pilot secondary gunner seat. The modules, I really like how they're like still open, even though they are small and everything. I don't like the fact that if this door is open, somebody can blast these with small arms or throw a grenade inside. There is no bulkhead that covers this area here. I would love to see a bulkhead here. That basically just a basic door of some sort that has some hit points. So if somebody chucked, say, a grenade inside and broke everything back here, great. But at least the crew survived. At least the crew is safe. And it would also help with breathability. So something to bear in mind is the minute this opens up, if somebody runs outside to fix something or go talk to somebody or whatever, the entire crew is exposed and now unsafe. But when you're inside, that ship certainly feels pretty dang hardy. And once armor is properly initialized, those vehicles will be much, much nastier. I will try the ramp on this one as well. Put me into rental, but I think it activated it. Yes, cool. I'm cool with that, as long as it works, even slightly. Interestingly, the display section would maybe even crush the person underneath, but okay. Whatever. Okay, so in the A2, you can see that they have the Moab racks sitting there, 2 on each side. So there's 2 Moabs on each rack. These racks fold downward, and this is the bomb bay door. So this will open to atmosphere for everybody inside this compartment when it drops its bombs. It drops 1, and then it has to cycle around to drop the second one on each side. So you have 4 overall. There is like a bomb computer on this ship. Basically puts a circle on the ground that tries to figure out where to put it. So on this ship, the ramp on the back is kind of a waste. You can't really fit the bigger vehicles with wider stance. But if you open this front, you can. You can start seeing the lighting and stuff and all these settings on here to change things, which is nice. Starting to see the elements of the newer design. And you can picture trying to fit a Nova on here, maybe even attempt to squeeze a second Nova on here. On the stat cards in the past, it used to say it can only fit 1 Nova tank, but clearly it should have enough room, as long as you're okay with it only having the 1 ramp to roll on, roll off. As a reminder, with roll on, roll off, you will have to deal with the fact if you only have 1 side that does it instead of both sides, single ramp, you will have to move the vehicles towards the front before you move the vehicles to the back. The other ships can just reverse or turn around and go out the back, which is nice. So you can see how it has the same cargo areas. Where the A2 makes you pause is this room right here, where all the remote turrets are. Pretty cool, huh? Feels like you're in Tron. And all these beautiful weapons and suit racks. So you can see that it has tons of weapon racks. Here's your suits, because you're not going to be able to sit in heavy armor in a lot of places in the future. And you have your mini turrets sitting in here. You have at least 4 remote turret operators inside this room operating their turrets. More modules to operate all that crazy stuff on this side. And then over here is your habitation. You can see the bunks for both the gunners and the crew. The crew is listed as 2 to 3 for a reason, but you can see that it has a couple more beds. You have 4 beds here. You have 4 more beds here. It understands that you may find yourself... Notice there's not much more storage for crew items aside from the internal big personal storage areas. And then they listened to the backers and turned this into a kitchen. This was originally probably not going to be a kitchen, but on the M2 and the A2, they added a kitchen, and the locations from the C2 with the whole little table. Especially on the A2, that's going to be valuable because think of the size of your crew can be at different times. It's kind of weird that you can hear the show music through the walls. But anyway, here's all your modules to run all this crazy stuff. And towards the front here. Just want to show you at least on one of these how it looks. So might as well be the A2. You basically can get in here. Big old modules in here as well. And then here's all the escape pods. And then the actual bridge. Notice it has 3 seats on these style ones. And this is yet another gunner seat. So you got the 4 in the back, 1 here. And you can start feeling the size of this. This will likely be the bombardier / co-pilot seat in the future, but for now the pilot can operate the bombs. I believe in 3.15.1. At least in the Pt2 they could. Again, they keep changing it. And you can also set these doors to lock, by the way. So if you only trust your gunners to, well, gun, you can do that. Notice how long these compartments are. They're huge. I mean, just absolutely huge. And this is why they need all this space for these massive components on these ships. But anyway, I think it's a really cool ship. I don't think it's worth $750. I think it's a buying game for a lot of UEC later, if you a decent bit of millions of UEC, and enjoy it with your org when you need this. When org storage starts becoming a thing, like org hangars and such, this ship is going to be a lot of sitting in a lot of those places. The the components will certainly be interesting, and the storage for these Moabs and cluster bombs when they come out in the future will certainly be something special to behold. But yeah, let's see if I can beat the door. I don't recommend that. But yeah, very cool thing. I will add that the big ramp right there is really nice. You can see all the extra guns, like crazy amount of guns this thing has on the bottom. I will add that the big door is a nice touch because it's right next to the weapon rack, so you can load those bombs very quickly and get this thing going on another bombing mission very, very quickly. I mean, it's crazy how many guns it has. And don't forget, these can rotate forward or backwards. Don't be tricked by this thing pointing this way or that way. It can 180-degree turn and just plow away on something. So, yeah, the turret outlay on this ship is crazy. And it has crazy crew requirements for such a large vessel. It starts getting into the territory of you might as well just field the Polaris if you're bringing this along. Right now, this is the, by the way, this is the front turret I talked about before. The chin turret that's on the M2 and the A2. Well, it might be upgraded on the A2, but anyway. That big old turret, twin double turret, can defend that front ramp very nicely. So if you're doing trades, if you're doing outpost drop-offs and such, and you don't want any surprises, putting a crew member on that will go a long way. That's the one that's in the cockpit. Anyway, let's check out the M2. So this ship's a little more practical, still a buying game. It's only slightly more than the C2. It's only $1 million more than the C2 over there, and it brings a lot more to the table. In-game value is exponential on these things, but the buy out of game for 120 more USD over the C2 is kind of really hard to take on, unless you're in that CCU range. Reminds me, I gotta still do the CCU talk. Anyway, you can see that it looks exactly like the C2 inside the compartment. And I'll open a front door too on this one, just to kind of show you the process and how how the lips kind of open up, and you can see that big old pronounced chin turret. The chin turret has complete control of this floor because you can open all exterior doors from the cockpit, ventilating this thing, and then also allowing this gun to have access to shoot directly into this area and defend it. I can't stress enough how if you don't trust somebody, closing this back door is a good idea, and then you have complete control of the only way in and off the ship with that chin turret. You could do an armored bazaar down here, even though it doesn't support shop keeps and stuff. You can still do it by person, and there you go. Whoever owns the ship is really running things, and the M2 has the armor to really back that up. You can't just sucker punch this thing. It's sitting there with heavy armor, capital shields, large shields. It's really doing... It's a hard nut to crack. And then you have all this personalized storage space on top. Here's habitation. There's your smaller bunk style. Remember we talked about three beds? This one actually has the 3 beds for the crew and just the crew. That's the double bathrooms again for some reason. Storage. And then this kitchen, which was taken away on the ship and then given it back due to complaints by the community. The argument was the M2 was a military vessel, doesn't need any type of kitchenette. And boy, did they replace that. They ripped out a lot of stuff and they turned it into a full-on kitchenette, full-on kitchen, I would argue. You can see the suit lockers and the weapon systems from the A2 here in the front. And this is like a ready seat. You can like put your boots on, I guess, or something, and grab all your gear. Look at all these suit lockers. Jeez. And then in the front here, for the non-crew, this is where they would be hanging out. And you can see there is 12 seats. So these seats are the proper crash seats too. So not hot dropping, but there's a bathroom and a kitchenette for them as well, with food and drink. Now, these seats are meant to be like when you're sitting in exiting Atmo or entering Atmo in very combat stance, you know, as fast as possible, getting G's, negative and positive G's slapped on you. These seats will keep you safe. In order to sit in a seat like this, you cannot be wearing heavy armor. So the idea is that these suit lockers, these 9 suit lockers, which isn't enough, but at least it's something, and the weapon lockers are meant to put those long arms and the suits in these places. And you can probably use some personal storage for the last 3 guys. Won't look as cool or be as fast, but they could do that. And then you sit in the 12 seats, and you rock these seats down to the planetary surface. When you get close, you get out of the seats. I like that they have some type of screens. I don't know how useful they'll be, but they should. I would just put maps on these if you could, you know, kind of like when you're on a plane or such, so they can get an idea of when it's time to drop. Get out of the seat, grab their gear, and run the heck out the door, down the elevator, down the stairs, down the ladders. It will be a little awkward, but you can do it. And then these personal storage areas, like I mentioned before, I would code these so the couple guys that don't have a suit locker can put their stuff in here. Take those last 3 guys a few more moments to get it out. Now, they could also go into their vehicles. So what that's really meant for, ladder slide, trying to show you a little bit of how like a military group would come down and then they'd hop into their vehicles. There would be a stack of, say, Nova, a Spartan, a couple Cyclone MTs, all packed in here. And then they would roll out as quickly as possible, with the Chinteric gunner helping them maybe open the back door as well, open all exteriors, start kitting these guys out and on the field as fast as possible, and then get this M2 the heck out of there, and maybe use the Chinteric as cover as needed to buy them time. The A2 can do that even better. However, I'm going to state the obvious here. If most of your people are busy on guns on the A2, then who's driving the vehicles? They're not fully loaded with people invading an outpost, are they? So, that's some thoughts. Okay, down below, we have the Cyclone MT with its beautiful collection of weapons and missiles. I pointed out before that when your head is in here, when you're actually standing there, it's pretty cool that your head is at like the height of this secondary missile and the armor around it. So long as somebody maybe doesn't hit this with a railgun, the front, small arms fire will be blocked by the armored sides. So it's actually a pretty cool concept. And then from the front, you can see this little wedge of armor here meant to protect the gunner a little bit more, even more. From the back, though, they're fully exposed. Unless they spin this gun sideways or backwards. So their legs and everything else, and the crew in front of them are a little bit exposed. But still, you can start to see like the lips of the armor adding a little bit of small arms protection. So the vehicles are pretty cool. Here's the Cyclone AA with very limited protection, but only 2 crew needed. I think these are still pilot controllable. That would be really cool. These missiles come out of this rack. There's 4 of them in there, and then the EMP's in the center, which the EMP really needs to be buffed. And then here's the Cyclone TR. I would not get this. I would get the Cyclone MT unless you have a height requirement. You can see it's almost the same height, but those missiles on the MT really do add a little bit of a lip. So on the 400i, for example, you can fit the TR or the AA, but you cannot fit the MT at this time. Could change again. But at this moment, that's how it is. So anyway, out of the three, the MT is right now the king. I would pick that. Let's see if there's anything this side. More Cyclones! Hooray! So, Tumbril Day, of course, so they got to cover them all. There's the regular Cyclone with its storage on the back instead of a turret. I don't like this as much, but I understand why it exists. You know, I understand. Here we go. You can place boxes in the back here or roll something on, very, very small, and then bam, you have cover. I could also see somebody trying to jump into the back of this and then somebody else closing the door, but I think it's going to be very awkward. You're going to be bouncing around. You're going to get hurt. These things really bounce. Here's one of the racers. Nice little Meriden Transit on the side. Nice little livery for the racing model. This has a boost. And then I think the military RN does a boost as well, unless they've changed it again. And this is the one that can deploy beacons. It's a little slower than the racing model, but it is also a two-seater, and it has a cooler look. It has the same carbon fiber racing design look to it on its components. And then also this can deploy a beacon. The idea with this one is that you could pop this out of the back of, say, a Freelancer MIS or something. MIS might not fit it, but a regular Lancer, and roll this off the back, or some other small ship like that can barely fit these things, and then rip across the ground and place multiple beacons. And then, okay, everybody, beacon 1, that's where we're landing the drop ships. Beacon 2, that's where I need my gunships. Like, this type of vehicle is meant for that type of work, to kind of place beacons in different positions and call in the cavalry, so to speak, or call in a weapon system. So, yeah. That's kind of where it's at. I don't know how practical that'll be or how often that'll be, but we'll see. Here's the Genesis Starliner. Great, great ship. Mostly at times two floors. It's kind of funny. The music in here is giving me Battlestar Galactica vibes, and it's a ship that reminds me a lot of Colonial 1. Sorry. Having a moment. But anyway, aside from good vibes of Battlestar Galactica 04 edition, I feel like this ship is a ton of potential. I've covered it earlier in this video. If you are jumping around on the video, please go back to that section on Crusader and really understand the value of this ship and how I feel that it will be start out as a VIP, all-inspiring, very, very luxurious first-class amenities type ship, and eventually will be a passenger/cargo and also a passenger ship, and maybe even have a military module or a military variant down the line that will have all that stuff stripped out for as many people as possible and as many Cyclone MTs and stuff like that as possible on the bottom. This ship, we can see some new upgrades on the bottom here, some more details being fleshed out in the hologram this year, and the massive engines being maintained. And the wings are not looking like they're going to fold in yet, but I truly believe that's the first thing that will happen is this ship will get longer once it's getting implemented, and this ship's wings will fold up, down, interior, whatever they have to do to fit on the largest pads and fit in the largest hangars. So that's just some of my thoughts on the Genesis Starliner. I also believe that 2022 will show us a lot of the Genesis Starliner because it's necessary for the commercial flight environment, and as Pyro comes online, that will be yet another way to get people into Pyro safely. Yes, I said that. Genesis Starliners, I believe, will be going back and forth to Ruin Station and no further, and they will be heavily defended through some type of pirate network or something crazy. That is my speculation. Endless speculation, but speculation. Here is a Ranger with all the weapon systems on board, and here is a Ranger with, this isn't the regular one because it doesn't have I think this must be the racing one because this doesn't have the bags. It's not like a bagger style or it's like an adventure / bagger how much storage it had. I mean, it was a huge box, and then a box on top is like the regular one. But here's the TR. That's the racing one. Unless the bags are just not on there. And then here's the Ranger. Oh, they're both the same one? Why would you do that? Okay, yeah, I apologize. I missed the guns completely. I was busy trying to find what the differences were. Uh, Missed the forest for the trees there. So, yeah, there's the Ranger TR. There is some theory crafting that the Redeemer will be able to fit one of these on the bottom when they change out the modules in the future. So, you'll be able to roll that into that nice little small mini ramp. I feel that they're really big. I don't like the size of them. I think the fact they're wheeled also, because they're not hover, limits their capacity. But on a planet that has breathable air or limited breathable air, and it's not severely like freezing or hot, too hot, like lava, they might be very practical. The weapon systems are always good. It adds some versatility to the vehicle, allows it to do some interdiction duties, and help protect you while you're out checking out on your outpost. I think that's what they are, though. They're meant for smaller ships and also meant for, well, mid-sized ships, and also meant for situations like outpost work. I could definitely see buying a few of those in game, all different kinds for messing around. Okay, so that's... Whoa, 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 wait a minute. Where's the Ares at? My goodness. Can you imagine if I would have skipped the Ares? I'll totally pretend I was joking. Yeah, I was about to leave and I was joking. Ha ha ha. So each one of these days they change the layout based on the number of ships and how they want to lay them out and such. And yeah, they move them around. I think it's to help with loading them. So the other room starts like having some occlusion or something. And then they put these all the way out here so you can have a proper experience of whatever they want to show you. So I'll start with the Inferno and the Ion. Every time these ladders come down, I hope they don't kill me. That's just a habit of mine from the Hornet series. But anyway. You can see the sheer size of these things to fit all the ammunition and fit all the components needed. Nice little missile racks on the bottom here. So that's one of the things that I should have mentioned in the original, was that I really like these missile racks. I think they add some versatility to these ships. Missiles in this circumstance are like get-off-me weapons. Let's see if we can power it up. Obviously, they're not going to let me shoot the cannon here, but...
Crusader Industries, a journey worth taking. Systems on.
You can see your finite ammunition supply, 3,800 rounds, which is pretty sizable. You can see you have 48 decoys and only 5 noise when it comes to your chaff and your flares. I like that the switches here are really slick, that you can do different things from the switches. I think this is a well done ship that way. And I will note that you're stuck in this seat. So when you're flying around and you're doing your thing, this is it. This is how you're flying. So that's how it works. So the missiles. Let's see if we can switch over. There we go. There is your size 3 missiles. You have 12 of them. And if I hit the G key, I can fire a volley of 4 at a time. So what you can do is when you get your missile lock, you'll see the green, and then you can fire all 4 at the same moment. You will burn through your missiles in only 3 volleys of missiles, but that may be one of your saving graces in a ship like this. If you cannot get your enemy in front of that massive size 7 gun, you may be able to get them in the general gist of in front of you and fire those missiles. And in the future with HUD, the way it's going to be, where you can literally just look over, lock onto something, and fire, you will have an even bigger firing arc of those missiles. I believe that those missiles are going to be one of the ways to get people off of you to run for your life, to get out of dodge. Like, I didn't expect to see 2 fighters defending this ship. Let me get out of here. So, and they also give you a way to kind of give you a sweet spot for longer engagements. So, in between bursts of this gun and trying to maneuver, you can surprise your enemy with a whole volley of size 3s. Give them something to worry about while you're repositioning. So, not just running, positioning and skirmishing and stuff. I think the Inferno is going to be a beast because it can break through that shield. And I think a whole wing of these will do some wonders. But you will eventually run out of ammo, and you will start wondering, how am I going to eat? How am I going to drink? Where am I going to use the restroom on that type of ship? But it is going to be a heck of a ship. I know they increased the fuel load, interestingly, and decreased the fuel load on the Redeemer to try to turn it into more of an attack helicopter concept, which I find really interesting that they did that. But that's how they're doing it. They're giving these a little longer of legs. I think they're an expensive vehicle for what they are, 250 USD. I think they're definitely a buying game. I will own a few of these, no matter how much I pick on them. And especially the Ion. I really like the style of the Ion. I think its shielding is good. I think that it has the better energy clip mechanism, which is the ship powered on? It's on, but the clip isn't charging. But this energy weapon system will last you a long, long time. Same amount of decoys, same amount of noise flares. It should have the same amount of missiles. There's your 4. There's your other 4. You can see that. We'll switch over to them. Size 3 arresters again. So there's your volley. So you have 3 volleys of them. Or you could do, technically, you could do 6 volleys if you keep it at 2 missiles at a time. If you're worried about them, if they're going to be smart enough to deploy flares. But yeah, I look at these type of ships as very valuable. Please do not think you're going to take down an Idris by yourself or in a pair or 2 of these. You will not. So as long as you're cool with that, these are incredible ships. And I would add that any Starfarers out there, Connies, these things are going to eat them alive if they're not careful. Especially if they're not paying attention, if they're down, mining or whatever. These things will do wonders. And I would mention that maybe the Inferno would be pretty good at trying to, if you have one of these and your friend is in like a Cuddy Black or something, that would be a hell of a combo. Like you get the jump on, say, a Connie Taurus doing mining operations, and you have this sitting on its side being like, if you move, I'll blast you. My friend's going to steal some stuff now. And you get out of your Connie Black, your friend, and steal some stuff and then leave. And you just leave. People aren't going to care that much. They're going to be mad, but they're not going to be like, I'm going to hunt them down forever. You could probably do a lot of work with that without having to shoot the gun, is what I'm getting at. So that limited finite ammunition that's scary is very practical. Another thing to remember is people don't know if you're out of ammo or not, or limited ammo or not. Just a couple shots to wake them up and keep them off your back might be good, and then slap some missiles at them and get out of dodge. So once again, the missiles add some versatility. I pick on the ship, but at the same time, I like the ship. I think it adds a lot of the every man can get into a fleet fight type mentality. I just stress that it can't do it by itself. That's what my frustration is with the marketing. Okay. Sure, I'll rent one. But what I'd like to do right now is just go on it. I think it's here. Oh my god, I really hope you're not watching, Ash. Usually I can just run my... Usually I can just run my the F key across something and grab its open space or whatever for opening the ramp. But in this case, that is not working because the rental is blocking. Here it is. I recognize that. I recognize that from the doors. Okay, so what we're dealing with here's the engineering area. I don't know why the signs aren't lit up, but here's the engineering area. Here is the secret open cargo bay, the cargo bays. This is the secret room. I don't know why the lighting is so weird. And here is all the secret cargo areas. And you can open these up and literally just wander out. It's pretty nuts. It's really fun down here. You can do like a seek and find from ever. One of my first videos I ever did was I covered an MSR. A Twitch streamer had access to it and was kind enough to leave it for me after he was taken up for the night. I was like, yeah, you can go do your thing, sure. And I never covered down there. I didn't know this existed. I found the secret room at the back of the ship, that first room I went into, but I didn't know the rest of the ship had this style. I had no idea. I wonder if nobody's been in here all day. Is that why this is acting up? Somebody not power the ship up? Or does it turn off over time, like after a few hours or whatever? Does lighting impact performance when you have all these ships near each other?
Crusader Industries, a journey worth taking. Systems on.
Anyway, so in the Crusader ship, weapon racks, Millennium Falcon 5s for days. I don't know why the lighting's acting up on this rental, but in the normal ship, we have not seen problems like this. These usually have signage on them telling you what it is, but this is the habitation area. That's the light switch. That's why I keep flicking it. Okay, and then these are the bathrooms, if I'm not mistaken. A lot like the C2 and the M2 and the A2. You can see the 3 beds here. So, once again, we've learned that beds are very valuable. It's nice to have desks and stuff and storage spaces. It's nice to have bathrooms for hygiene, which will be important every now and then. I don't know why the ship is kind of flipping between horror movie and white, sleek, sophisticated Origin style, kind of Crusader up, though, style with these grays as well, but it is. Here's the 2 turrets. This one goes up. This one goes down. This is why I said they're right near each other, because you can hop into one, and then if you need to, you could in theory get out and get into the other turret and get to the other one. They are not perfect because somebody could just realize you switch turrets and try to run back to the top again, but with the ship spinning and such, it should help a little bit. Here is that area full of data centers. These do not do anything at this moment, but they will. It's very cool for data running. Tons of servers. And in here is the scanning room. This whole room is kind of dedicated to scanning. I made the case in one of my first videos I made that this room should have been storage or an engineering, like workshop tinkerer's workbench area right here, like right along here. Like I could see, like, you know, all the electronic sensor equipment, maybe radio comms, like hacking stuff or something. But you can see the scanners for the scanning support computers here. The scanning seat is here. In the future, this will have connection with that dish on top that'll be activated. And then that whole room back there, maybe holograms or something, I guess. But it's a shame because that's the only wasted space on this ship. I mean, it's just jam-packed with stuff. And that room could have been used for something, I suspect. Here's the elevator that everybody forgets about, and then the ladder is there. This area is big enough, thanks to the ramp and the width of this door, to be able to fit vehicles in. And I can personally attest that at least at the moment, when you stand here, you don't suffocate. When you go out that door, you better have a helmet on if you're on a non-breathable Atmo. In the future, I suspect that whole area will be ventilated, and there's doors to cover that in most of the directions that you go. So, oh, and the engineering room. Sorry. This is the engineering room if I didn't cover this. More modules are right here, which I like because you can go right out the ramp with your broken modules, and fixed modules come in, which is pretty chill. That's the MSR in a nutshell. Probably the fastest you've ever seen somebody cover the MSR, because I am on my way to a whole nother location. So when we come back, I'll be on the floor of Origin. And that should be the end of the showroom coverage until we get to the CCU game. Okay. You know this place is packed with Origin goodness when I was coming up this ramp, just running away, and all of a sudden my screen started getting sideways, so I took my hands off the keys. Apparently my character fell at the top of the steps. I'm guessing while these massive ships were loaded in. So, yeah, that's a thing. Here's the 890 jump, and they're very proud. CIG is very proud of the fact of the sheer scale of this thing. Mine's sitting in buyback, so I might as well rent one now. Might need it. Yeah. But yeah, the even just the front landing gear is bigger than some ships. I mean, when you really look at this thing, it's mind-boggling, the scale and the size of this ship, and beautiful. It really is something special. So, let's start small, I guess, and work our way up. Here's a 125A. This is the combat variant of the 100i series that you heard me talk about earlier. like all of them, it has a very small interior. You come up the stairs. Here's the bed. There's that secret little door. The tiny little cargo grid. As a reminder, the 135C is the one with the bigger cargo grid in the back that combines with that. And here's a tiny little chair for the pilot. It's meant to be small, though. I mean, that's the good thing about it. And then once you close this up, it's very sleek. You can see the air system right here. This is the system that allows you to take in as much air, convert it into hydrogen as you need to keep going. And this is the one I recommend, the 135C. This vehicle right here has a bigger cargo area. Doesn't show it that well, but you can fit a whole person back here. And I think that's a good thing. It's meant for cargo. And I think putting a few boxes back there is very handy. I think the 135C is well suited for that. Between that and I think it's here. It's the other door. Oh, I don't want to rent it. I just want to open the door. Here's that nice big cargo grid. So you can see how it says SU4. And then I think the other smaller grid is in the back. This is the one that's big. This big old 4 SCU in the back. And this is separate from that cargo grid that's inside. For like box runs. It's clear that this is meant for box running. And I don't know if it's because it's a rental or not, but you cannot access... It's like kind of perpendicular to this. The other container. But this one has a lot of hidden bonuses when it comes to cargo. Once again, on a ship designed to cargo run, having infinite local fuel is really nice. Having a few more missiles and such and slightly upgraded weapons is nice too. I mean, but then you lose some of your... all of your cargo, I think. Oh my god, this rental thing. I really wish I could toggle it. Just turn it off completely when you don't want it. I think it has 2 SCU back there. I think there's something back there, but it's not enough to really be writing home about. And then it also still has that small storage area. But I think the C version is probably the shining one of that set. Let's take a peek downstairs. I'd imagine they have like probably hollow viewers the G12s, I guess. Be shocked if they're on display. Here's the M50. I'm barely even going to cover this because the M50's on display at Lorville. You've seen it many, many times if you've ever been to Lorville. And it's an M50. It races. Can't wait to see what Cousin Crows does to it with their upgrades on their engines. Here's the 85X. This is also technically in Lorville, but always set back at New Deal. You can rent these really cheap and buy them really cheap, under 1 million U credits. And you can see that it has 2 doors, two ladders. And it has a nice big cockpit to fit 2 people side by side, which is nice about this snub. This comes with the 890 jump. It is a nice little ship. It is a buying game, or just a CCU upgrade from like, if you don't want your Argo cargo, that might be not a bad option to upgrade to. But there's other options too. And then CCU to something else later. Here's the G12s. So this is the military version on this side. I guess they're both military versions. My first instinct is to question, I hope these missile pods duck down. It looks like they can. But even if the pilot driver has to duck them down, that would be fine. But as long as they can. As long as these can collapse as close as possible to this rail at the top of the vehicle. So you can fit these into tighter quarters. Here is the 2 seats in the G12. You can actually make out the edge of one of the seats here. And my other hope is that these vehicles will have those weapons will be drivable used, as well as by the passenger if that happens to be a passenger. That would make these infinitely more valuable. I know they claim they reinforce these for military use, so I'm guessing those are run flat tires. These have like some little, you can see these cowlings over the wheels, but I think the racing one has that too. So there's some little military additions, I suspect, but it's going to be something weird. I've got mixed feelings, but it is a breathable atmosphere inside the cockpit. If you're really looking for a vehicle and you want something luxurious, you want something nice for your 600i, it's not a terrible option. It's one of many options, though. So, on to the 600i. Well, no, wait. We got to do the 300 series. There's got to be some 300s in here, too. I clearly can tell they didn't put all the Origin vehicles up on the main floor, at least. Right near the front, so let's plan this out a little bit, at least. On doubleheader days like this, I've done 2 topics in one video before. This is really pushing it. But, okay, the 300s are off on their own side here. So, okay. But yeah, this is something where it is what it is. It's going to be a long video. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Covering a lot of topics. And
You're running in the halls.
It's something that is special. This guy right here. I don't usually put chat up or do VoIP or anything for in-game when I'm doing videos, just to be careful, because I'm obviously speaking like crazy in here. So if I did, I'd have to do push to talk, and it'd be a whole thing, and then I have to remember to hit it, and remember I'm not hitting it, so I don't want to annoy everybody with my chatter. But I do have it enabled so I can hear other people. Looks like he's not reading chat. It's fine. Anyway, I will add that there's been some pretty weird chat going on. And this is the 300 series, so it has a nice little container in the back, I think it is, back here. If this dang rental gridding would stop blocking my view of everything, that'd be swell. I think I'm gonna have to go into this ship just to, just literally go in it, just to open its, all exteriors. But anyway, I've been seeing some chat, which has been positive, negative, etc. And there's been a lot of little arguments over which ships are great and which ships aren't, and how much you know about things. And I've been staying out of that stuff. I hope that in my videos, at least, I present as many sides to things as possible, as best I can. I'm not an expert dogfighter. I'm not a trucker making millions of UEC during hauling in this game. I just I kind of try to present exactly what I am, and been here since the beginning. That's mainly my biggest thing. I focus on the tradition of the games and how things have changed, and I try to predict with analytics what you need to know before you spend your hard-earned money in game or out of game. But both. On all the 300 series, you have the full bathroom. I don't know if there's a shower though. Actually, I don't know if this is a toilet or not. I guess it isn't. I stand corrected. It's not a full bathroom. There's no shower. And in the back here, you have storage that you can't use for clothing. You have a nice little mini weapons rack. And here is normally, if you do your upgrades on the customization, this is where the coffee machine is. This is where the food processor is. And then in the middle is like a media player. One of the other interesting things that's just kind of for show, this is your fridge that you get anyway, even without any upgrades. There's like little trinkets you can add, like a little in-game clock, a little photo frame to like nothing. One of the things I like about this bed is when you get in the bed, I'll take the risk, screw it. The bed comes out, and then you have a nice view of the ceiling, which right now is a ceiling, but when you're in space, when you're actually in space, this is a beautiful view of the stars. So it's not a bad way to be logging on and off. There's a lot of that stuff. I'm using some of my shinier undersuits because I'm running low on undersuits. I need to just go to the store and buy a pack of them or something. Like buy a bunch of TC4s or whatever they are. Because I am burning through all my freebie subscriber and concierge stuff each time my ships blow up. I don't get them back often, frustratingly. Here is a 315P. Now, I mentioned this is one of my favorite ships. Plain and simple, it has the same facilities as the interior of the other ones, as you've noticed. However, actually, if any of them have a shower, this will be the one. So, but, okay, there we go. No shower. So, toilet, food and drink, food processing for higher end foods. That's as far as it goes. Surprise! So anyway, I don't know why this. There it is. There it is. So here's your cargo bay on your 315, on your 300i series. Your 300i has a regular size cargo bay, and some people have speculated that these Rangers and smaller motorcycles might be able to squeeze in there, kind of coming from the side. But I really don't see it. I think you'd have to tractor beam it, like crouch here, tractor beam over, and kind of wander in. On the 315P, it has a bigger cargo area. God, this is agony trying to get these to open. Even when you know where things are on these rentals. Because on a normal ship, it would just... Maybe it's the same glitch as the other one. Like I have to hit rental and then it'll still do whatever it's supposed to do. But on the 315P, I think this is the one that has the bigger cargo area built in. And on the front of the ship, it will have a tractor beam here, which you can see mounted now. This is your tractor beam. So this is the only 300 series with a tractor beam that comes from the factory that way. On the 300i, you can see a weapon mounted there. On the 325A, you'll see a big old ballistic mounted there. And, yeah, the 300 series is one of those shining ships. I think the 315P and the 325A really steal the show. The 350R, soft spot ship for me that eventually may be something, but I'll always keep. I will never get rid of it. Just because it was one of my first really shiny ships, and it's my game package ship. I had a different game package, I think, and then I replaced it? I forget how the hell that went. But, no, it's not worth it. The point is, I believe the 315P has a slightly bigger cargo area on the bottom. And it has that tractor beam to be able to pull things towards it. So it's a better opportunity for EVA work to be able to throw things into the cargo area that's on the same area as the tractor beam. So pretty cool for such a small ship. And it has a longer endurance engines. It's meant to be a longer distance flight ship. And it has better scanners too. Now, where the 315P is, the 325A is the combat variant. If you need to look any further, there you go. It's a good screenshot right there. But you can see the weapons are really just pronounced on this ship. And it has customizable weapon systems. It has the same interior. I'm not going to go through that again. But it has the same interior as the other ships. It forgoes a lot of the cargo space and a decent amount of the cargo space in the tractor beam for weapons, and did I say weapons? It is a great little ship. It has a bed. It has the kitchenette still, so it can fight. It can log out. It can last out there. It has the toilet, so you have all the things you need for the most part to have reasonable legs on a serious weapon ship. On to the 350R. This is a ship that is... The 350R is a frustrating ship for this reason. I brought this up before. But it loses all of the things except for the bathroom. It does have a toilet. It does lose everything else. So you have a seat. You have a bed. You climb onto this bed. It has a beautiful view. And in fact, it has a better view than the others. But it loses all of the other origin-ness to it. Having the luxury features of having the little kitchenette and all the, you know, the luxuries of that, and just put a music player and all that goofy stuff. You lose all of that. You lose storage, the internal storage space in the back area. I mean, technically, the ship will still have a, if we go to vehicles, 650,000 micro SCU. But that will eventually go away. You will need to have containers. Right now it's just based on the ship size. You will need to have containers. You will need to have suit lockers, clothes storage, etc., weapons lockers. And this ship has None of that. Hopefully in a Golden Pass, this will be changed slightly. I think they need to revamp the ship into an interceptor that still has the kitchenette, or at least something partial. I think this bed should fold away like a Murphy bed style, or at least just go to the side, like literally just rotate to the side, and then you can walk through this area. Maybe this door opens, and then you have this tiny little area here that's like a partial kitchenette. The other side be like a little tiny weapons locker or something like that. It needs something. You see a little medical thing, but so that's kind of where my head's at with the 350R and the 300 series in general. This ship, by the way, would not be a terrible box runner, but it's fast. Almost half the ship is an engine. That's what's going on here. It's very big on its fast. For its size, it's pretty good. If you're looking for a racing ship that happens to have a bed, there it is. Why you want a bed and a toilet in a racing ship, I don't know. But it would make for a nice interceptor. For now, this would be not a bad interceptor either. Nobody said the 325A is slow. It's just slower than the 350R, and especially in acceleration. But boy, oh boy, can this ship do some things when it gets there. Look at that weapon loadout. And then you get over here and you look at the weakened weapon loadout of the 350R. And the lack of all the services to keep you out there alive longer, like the 325A has. Speaking of keeping you alive out there longer, here is the 400i. Now, this is where the front elevator is. This is where the X1 will be, and where the theory crafting of the Nox, and possibly the Ranger, etc. will go. And I believe it. Yeah, Mason pointed out that you can also put your box runs on there. For now, at least. So at least you can use it for normal stuff. And I really like the way the door mechanism works. I think everything about it's really chill. And it's not wasted space. In the original write-up, by the way, it doesn't usually go like that. But in the original write-up, they described that this floaty thing that's making your gravity was back here. So this was all wasted space. So when they finally redesigned it, they said, you know what, let's add some type of vehicle storage area. That's a second vehicle storage area. More on that in a moment. Here's your suit lockers. I mentioned before that I don't like that the Origin design is very, very subdued, almost to the point of failure, because if you're not comfortable with the ship, or you have somebody on the ship that's not used to it, remember it has room for 3 crew, it's kind of awkward to find which one of these is the weapon locker and which ones are the suit lockers, and the last thing you want to do is leave these open and exposed so everybody can see exactly what your stuff is. I mean, think about it. This room is basically ventilated to space. You don't want everything in here exposed to the elements, exposed to your problems, whatever's going on outside, people wandering up, taking a peek at things. You want this all closed off. I don't know why that one's glitched. Here is your docking collar. So you would close this, and this becomes a floor. And I think it's this one now. They changed it. The ramp was at the top before, and it freaked people out. Also, I don't like that the ramp is, like, right here. You could, in theory, activate it, and... Huh, I wonder what's happening. Then fall into space. That's a problem. So, I do like that this is here. I think that all this is necessary. I think this is like the first luxurious entry point you can see on an Origin ship. And on something this small, it's pretty cool. Here's the airlock. This thing flips open really fast once it finally goes. There's your airlock. You would use that when you're at a station or attached to another ship. I think you can just stand in front of these doors and they open. Here is those areas I talked about with the climate control. So have that blue plastic from your fridge. And then when it's closed, you can see it's like all cooling everything down and keeping everything mild. You can get to your modules and their climate controlled areas. They made a big deal of these places being climate controlled, and the thought we had was perhaps you can put fruits, vegetables, and other perishable items in this area instead of your cargo area. And speaking of cargo areas, let's go into there. So this is your cargo area. Really, it's meant for a vehicle or a cargo. And you can see that this is big enough to fit most vehicles, including a Cyclone. You can fit a full-size Cyclone in here. I do not think it will fit a G12. G12s are too wide, at least as of concept and as is making it through the phases. Here is your 4 yes, 4, even though the crew's 3, escape pods. Once again, the thought is for symmetricalness. I wish it had another suit locker instead of another escape pod, but you have 4. In theory, you could waste one. I mean, you could use it to like get to the surface or something if you're just making one delivery to show off or something for fun. Let's see. Here is your cargo elevator going in. Interestingly, I was on this edge and I felt like my character starting to fall down into the thing. That's an interesting dynamic. Anyway, nice little ramplets at the back. But the turret at the back of the ship kind of blocks this from rolling up. Yeah, there's your elevator, but here's your ladder. And I've made the case multiple times now that the way to get up and down this ship is go up the ladder and then... That was weird. Send this down. You just leave that there and you can just fall. So you could, if you're not carrying anything, just fall down and then use the ladder to get back up. It's a very fast ladder. It's a very fast fall without having to wait for the elevator. Here's the kitchenette. Here is the very cool table that reminds me a lot of like a lot like the C2 and the M2 on the Hercules series, the A2. And it also reminds me of the like a diner style table, which I really like. And I even like the lighting in here is really slick. So this second light is really cool because it still has the running lights for emergencies. Like if you're crawling on the ground because of the smoke or something, you can still see and get around. And it kind of gives you a sense of purpose. Or if you just really want it, just I want no light in here, you can even turn those off. And the only reason there's light in here now is because the hollow table and the extremely bright lights on the showroom floor. You can do that in every part of this vehicle too, which is pretty dang cool. But yeah, here's the crew quarters. I don't know why their occlusion has failed, but there's 2 beds in there. I'm not going to walk into that room for now. But yeah, the room's missing. And yeah, the captain's quarters. I will say that the vehicle does work. I've tested it in plenty of patches now, and it's a really nice ship. I don't know why these pads are acting up. Anyway, there's 1 bed in there, a desk, and I even did a video in Lore Post where I was sitting at the desk. You can see there's a full-on bathroom here with the toilet, with an we can put up your clothes to keep them dry, and then close that, and then there's your shower. Thank you for spotting that, by the way. I forget who the viewer was that pointed that out, and it was kind of something I was making fun of. There's your mirror. So after my first 30K, and I wasn't able to recover the thing loading twice, started being brought to my attention that there was a few different streamers that are now getting their hands on Argos to get a view of. The vehicle is still not confirmed its name. However, it appears that developers are showing them off on Twitch streams today. So without further ado, instead of showing you the 600i Explorer Edition and the 890 Jump and covering those at the end of my video, I am going to cover the Argo vehicle that's about the size of the Mole. Is speculated to be freight containers, and here is the 3 freight containers. And this is by the way, this is the first Twitch streamer that I'm going to show. I'm not going to say his name, but you can see it right here. So what PPP here found. Recommend checking out his channel on Twitch. He has videos of him running around and finding an Argo, and then his friend deciding to ram it. But you can see that the vehicle has those tall things, the tall landing gears, and then they go vertical when the vehicle is no longer in VTOL capacity. And we can see that there's engines on both the back of the vehicle and then also on the sides of the vehicle. Here is another Twitch streamer, Bog Nungus, that also had access to see an Argo freight vehicle. And you can clearly see it's daytime in this New Babbage zone. And it is clear that the pilot of the Argo purposely went here on this one. The other one, they kind of like are doing their thing supposedly, and they turn and one of them spots it and they fly over. With this one, the Argo flew up to the Defender and kind of wing wagged, and then it went forward to this guy in a Cyclone. So it is crystal clear they are doing the equivalent of stream sniping with showing off this ship, which they've done in previous things as well. If they're willing to show it on Twitch streams like this and show it off to build hype, I am willing to show it on YouTube on my clips. So I thank both PPP and Bognungus for their clips, and I highly recommend checking out their channels on Twitch. And I've included their information in the top left corner here. But you can make crystal clear that there is 3 containers on the bottom of this vehicle, and they are speculated to be 32 SCU standardized containers each, and that they will be easily deployable from this vehicle to be replaced with more containers. You can see the clamps here on the bottom of the ship. The part they keep teasing is the magnetic locking system on the front of the vehicle. And you can see that there is no magnetic lock on the back of the vehicle. Now, as a reminder, it's the... Sorry, that's a hollow from yesterday. But as a reminder, there is no... there was supposed to be standardized SCU inside, storage-wise. But the thought is that really the main show is going to be those containers that can be replaceable in the back. And my theory crafting is this vehicle will magnetically lock itself to the side of a large vessel, like a hull C, a hull D, a hull E, and then by utilizing tractor beams or some other technology, be able to pull containers off the side of these massive vessels and fit 3 at a time, and then this vessel will fly over to a station, fly over to an outpost, fly over to a landing location that is otherwise incapable of fitting such a large vessel, and it will be in that VTOL configuration, quickly drop off the 3 containers, and then take off again in that configuration. Once it gets off the ground, then it starts taking off very quickly to go up and get more off the hull C, D, or E. I believe this vehicle, if it is used in that capacity, will be vitally needed. There'll be a lot of NPCs flying these things, and I believe that it's going to come out before the hull C or during the time when the hull C comes out, because it has to. Plain and simple, this vehicle has to be. Also, the fact that it is flying around and developers are showing it off makes it clear to me it is either flyable or dang near flyable now for 3.15.1. So it's very exciting to see it in game for many reasons, but the main reason is in just a day it'll be in the hands of players, is my hope. So I hope it's a straight to flyable STF vehicle, and I hope that those containers can be replaceable from the get-go. Also, something that Mason has pointed out a lot is that there's a lot of piping on the top of this ship. And frustratingly, none of these videos showed off the top of the ship yet, but you can see a little bit of it in these shots. You know, I know grainy, ha ha ha, enhance, super trooper joke, but there's a lot of piping on top of this ship, and we're not quite sure what it's for. It is entirely possible that it has some other capability, maybe a mining support technology or something else, and it's very quick. In the Twitch shot, it takes off and just zips away. I don't know what the rules are on showing a actual video shot from a Twitch video streamer, so I'm going to just leave them be with these stills of the Argo freight vehicle, which probably has 2 capacities. Here's some piping you can see here. There's tons of this on the center of this ship. So we don't think it's just for a couple tractor beams, a magnet, and 3 container locks on the bottom. There must be something else this thing does. A lot of something else this thing does. Here's some more of that piping all the way at the front of the ship too. Because it's about mole sized, and it doesn't have all those mining turrets, and it doesn't have that refinery in it for a compression unit for mining material. And yet it does have some type of machine in the back of it that we suspect, due to all the piping, is leading to. There is some thoughts that there may be some other capacity this ship does. Maybe it's refueling. Maybe that's just a big pump to do refueling work. Maybe it does some type of refining support itself. Maybe it kept the compression technology the mole has. So it can go up to, say, multiple prospectors working, and it can refine for them. Anything's possible. Or sorry, compress for them, and then shove all the goods into these containers, get back to station, drop them off, grab fresh empty containers, get back out into the mining fields, into the belts, and who knows. But I think its primary duty is to get those containers off the Hull series ships and get them into the stations so the Hull C can land, and the Hull D and E later will enjoy the benefits of this ship as well. That's my speculation. So we'll see how right I am in just a few hours, just under 24 hours from now. So we'll see. But I figured I'd end this video with something where the devs are getting very cheeky, for lack of a better word, with this ship. And if they're going to be this open with the ship, I will be open as well with what they have provided. Okay, so that does it for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for sticking around for this doubleheader. And thank you to my long-term subscribers and all the people who have feedback. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you all, and fly safe.